What do you do when your family expects you to sacrifice your happiness for theirs? Clara, fresh out of college, thought she had her future figured out, but moving back in with her parents wasn't part of the plan. It seemed like a temporary situation until her sister Brittany's family moved in and everything changed. Clara's life turned into an endless cycle of paying bills, babysitting, and being the afterthought. The tipping point came when Clara realized she wasn't just overlooked, she was taken for granted. But this time, she was done. Stay tuned to see how Clara takes control of her life, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Fresh out of college with my business degree, I found myself back in my childhood home. I'm Clara, 22 years old, and honestly, I hadn't planned on moving back in with my parents. But here I was. The job hunt didn't take long, thankfully. Within a week, I landed a position at Davidson Marketing with a decent salary and promising performance bonuses. That evening, over Mom's meatloaf, I shared my good news. I figured I'd stay here for about 3 months, save up some money, and then get my own apartment. The clinking of forks against plates stopped abruptly. Mom and Dad exchanged one of those looks, the kind that always meant trouble. Moving out? Mom set down her fork. Clara, you know I can only work part-time at the library because of my back problems. Dad cleared his throat. And things aren't great at the plant. There have been rumors of layoffs. We could really use your help with the bills. Mom added softly. And you wouldn't have to pay rent here. It just makes more sense, doesn't it? I stared at my half-eaten meatloaf, feeling trapped. They had a point, sort of, and they were my parents after all. I guess I could stay longer. Life fell into a rhythm after that. I went to work, came home, paid the bills, and Mom made sure dinner was always on the table. It seemed okay manageable, even until last weekend when my sister Brittany showed up with her husband Kevin and their kids, Olivia and Noah. The change in my parents was instant, as if someone had flipped a switch. "Oh, my precious angels," Mom cooed, scooping up 4-year-old Olivia while Dad swung Noah onto his shoulders. "Brittany, darling, you look wonderful. How's everything going? Tell us all about what you've been up to." I stood in the doorway watching as my parents fawned over their eldest daughter and her perfect little family. The way they hung on her every word, asking for details about the most mundane things. How her garden was doing, what new words Noah had learned, how her book club was going. They'd never shown that kind of interest in my life, not even when I made the dean's list or won the business school's leadership award. "Clara, be a dear and put on some coffee," Mom called over her shoulder, not even looking my way as she bounced Noah on her knee. Standing in the kitchen that day, listening to my family's laughter from the living room, I couldn't help but think back to how things had always been this way. Brittany, 7 years my senior, had always been the star of our family show, while I was relegated to the role of supporting cast. I remember sitting at that same kitchen table when I was 11, showing Mom my straight A report card. She barely glanced at it before turning back to Brittany, talking about college applications. "That's nice, Clara," she said absent-mindedly, waving me off. "Brittany, honey, which universities are your top choices?" Those years were all about Brittany's high school achievements. Every dinner conversation revolved around her grades, her extracurriculars, her college prep. I'd sit there quietly, eating my peas while Mom and Dad hung on every word Brittany spoke about her AP classes and college tours. Everything changed even more dramatically when Brittany got accepted to university. I was 11 at the time, and I still remember that dinner conversation like it was yesterday. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," Mom had exclaimed, tears in her eyes. "We'll make it work, won't we, Robert?" Dad nodded solemnly. "We'll take out a student loan. Our Brittany deserves the best education possible." A week after Brittany left for college, they sat me down for a different kind of talk. "Clara," Dad said, his voice serious, "we need to tighten our belts for a while. The loan payments and Brittany's college expenses are significant." That's when things really changed. While my classmates got new phones every year, I kept my old flip phone until it literally fell apart. When I needed new clothes, we went to thrift stores. Christmas gifts became practical items like socks and school supplies. But they never forgot to send Brittany money. "Your sister needs to focus on her studies," Mom would say as she wrote another check. "We can't let her feel stressed about money." I learned my lesson early, At 15, I joined every club and academic competition I could find. I stayed up late studying, not just for good grades, but for perfect ones. I wrote essays for scholarship competitions until my hands cramped because I knew that there would be no student loans for me. I got a full scholarship to State University, and I still remember the look of relief on my parents' faces when I told them they wouldn't have to spend a dime on my education. Meanwhile, Brittany graduated, got a job in Brighton, and quickly married Kevin, her college sweetheart. Within 2 years, she had Olivia, and Noah followed shortly after. My parents were over the moon. Their perfect daughter had created a perfect family. Now every monthly visit turned into the same routine. Brittany and Kevin would show up with the kids, and before I could even say hello properly, Brittany would be planning her weekend. "Clara, you'll watch Olivia and Noah while we go shopping, right?" she'd say, not really asking. "Kevin and I hardly get any alone time these days." The first few times, I tried to suggest that our parents could watch them instead. "Oh, honey," Mom would say, rubbing her back. "You know it's hard for me to keep up with young children. And your father needs his rest on weekends." So here I was, spending yet another Saturday watching Frozen for the 100th time with Olivia while Noah tried to color on my bedroom walls. Brittany and Kevin were off having lunch with friends, and our parents were puttering around in the garden, occasionally peeking in to ask if I needed anything, as if they were doing me a favor. I tried to console myself with the thought that it was only one weekend a month, just one weekend of being the reliable babysitter while everyone else lived their lives, free from the responsibilities that seemed to pile up on me. A year passed, and the cycle of babysitting and paying bills became almost routine. Almost. Then came the phone call that would flip my life completely upside down. I was doing dishes after dinner when I heard my mom's phone ring from the kitchen. I could hear her surprise, her voice rising. "Brittany, oh, sweetheart, don't cry. Tell me what happened." Through the sobs, Brittany explained that Kevin's company had gone bankrupt without warning. They couldn't afford their rent anymore and had no savings. Could we maybe stay with you for a while?" Brittany's voice was loud through the phone, almost piercing the air. "Of course you can," Mom exclaimed without hesitation. "We'll make room." My stomach dropped. I stepped forward, my voice catching in my throat. If they're moving in, maybe this would be a good time for me to get my own apartment?" Mom's expression froze, like I'd just suggested burning the house down. "Clara, don't be ridiculous. There's plenty of room for everyone." Dad added firmly, "But we're family. We stick together during hard times." They arrived the following weekend with 3 packed cars. I spent the entire Saturday morning hauling my things into what had been our storage room, the smallest bedroom in the house, barely big enough for a twin bed and a dresser. My old room, twice the size, became the kids' nursery because the children need space to play. Olivia, now 5, and Noah, 3, treated the entire house like their personal playground. They ran up and down the hallways, shrieking with laughter, while Brittany sat in front of the TV, cranked up to full volume, or had long, loud phone calls with her friends about how hard this transition was for her. "Olivia, Noah, keep it down!" I'd call out as they burst into my room for the 10th time, scattering my work papers everywhere. "They're just playing, Clara," Brittany would say dismissively, never even glancing up from her phone. "Don't be such a grouch." See, after work, all I wanted was to relax in my room, maybe read a book or watch something on my laptop. Instead, I was treated to the relentless loop of Baby Shark blasting through the walls, punctuated by the constant thumping of little feet running back and forth, and Brittany's loud laughter at whatever show she was watching downstairs. Kevin spent his days job hunting, but mostly I saw him sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone with a worried expression. "The job market's tough right now," he'd say whenever anyone asked, "but I'm sure something will come up soon." At night, I lay in my tiny bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the chaos that had taken over my home. I wondered how I had let myself get trapped in this situation, but every time I thought about bringing up moving out again, I remembered my parents' dismissive reaction and kept quiet. The first utility bill after Brittany's family moved in hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the numbers that were almost double what I usually paid. The water bill alone had skyrocketed, not to mention electricity and heating. I glanced at my bank account and realized that my dream of saving for my own place was slipping further away by the day. That evening, as we sat down for dinner, I decided to bring it up. "So, about the utility bills," I started, pushing my peas around my plate, trying to avoid eye contact. "They've doubled since last month. I can't keep covering all the bills by myself anymore. It's taking almost my entire salary." Brittany's fork clattered against her plate. "Are you seriously complaining about money right now when Kevin and I have lost everything?" "I'm not complaining. I just think we need to figure out a fair way to—" "I can't believe how selfish you're being." Brittany's voice rose. "We're going through the hardest time of our lives and all you care about is money." "Brittany's right, Clara," Mom jumped in. "Family helps family. That's what we do." Dad nodded solemnly. "Your sister and Kevin need our support right now. This isn't the time to be counting pennies." I looked down at my plate, swallowing the words I really wanted to say. "Fine, never mind." A week later, Kevin finally got a job at an insurance company. It paid less than his previous position, but at least it was something. I thought maybe things would start getting better. I was wrong. "It's so hard being alone with the kids all day," Brittany started complaining almost immediately. "Kevin leaves at 8 and doesn't get back until 6. I never get a break." Then it started small requests at first. "Clara, could you watch the kids for an hour while I run to the store?" "Clara, would you mind keeping an eye on them while I take a shower?" Before I knew it, these small favors had snowballed into something much bigger. I'd come home from work to find Brittany already dressed up to go out. "Oh, good, you're home," she'd say, grabbing her purse. "Kevin and I are meeting friends for dinner. Olivia and Noah already had their snack, but they'll need dinner in an hour. We'll be back by 10. Weekends became my personal nightmare. Every Friday evening, Brittany and Kevin would casually announce their plans: another shopping trip, lunch with friends, a movie date, leaving me alone with the kids for hours. And just when I thought things might be manageable, Mom and Dad would conveniently start visiting relatives more often, slipping out right after Brittany and Kevin left. So there I was, weekend after weekend, desperately trying to keep Olivia from drawing on the walls while Noah threw another tantrum because I'd cut his sandwich the wrong way. Saturdays were spent cleaning up toys, making mac and cheese, and enduring endless repeats of children's movies. By Sunday night, I was completely drained. My house was a mess, and I still had to cook dinner for everyone. It became routine, suffocating. I was the unpaid babysitter, the invisible helper. One evening, after a particularly grueling weekend, I finally gathered enough courage to speak up at dinner. "I need to talk to you all," I said, setting my fork down, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm really tired. This situation with the childcare isn't working for me." Brittany's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "What do you mean, isn't working?" she demanded. "Are you saying you don't want to spend time with your own nephews?" Before I could answer, Mom reached across the table, patting Brittany's hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, honey. This is actually good practice for Clara. She'll need to know how to handle children when she becomes a mother someday. Think of it as training." And just like that, the conversation shifted. Brittany went back to discussing her day, Mom and Dad hanging on her every word, Kevin nodding along as usual. I sat there, invisible once again, pushing food around my plate. Nothing changed after that. If anything, it got worse. Brittany and Kevin seemed to take my complaint as a challenge. They found even more reasons to go out, always waiting by the door when I came home from work, car keys in hand. "We're meeting friends at that new restaurant downtown," they'd say, already halfway out. "Kids have had their snack, thanks, Clara." Weekends became something I dreaded. I'd wake up on Saturday mornings with a knot in my stomach, knowing I'd spend the next 2 days glued to Paw Patrol, mediating sibling fights, while Brittany and Kevin lived their best lives. Then came a Wednesday that changed everything. I was at my desk at work, trying to focus on a marketing report despite my exhaustion, when my friend Jessica stopped by my cubicle. "Hey, want to do something fun this weekend?" she asked, perching on the edge of my desk. "A bunch of us are going to the Pine Ridge Ski Resort, just a quick weekend getaway. Leave Saturday morning, come back Sunday night. The slopes are supposed to be perfect right now." For the first time in months, I felt a spark of excitement. That weekend, I was in my tiny bedroom packing my duffel bag, genuinely looking forward to time away from the chaos. I folded my warmest sweater, my heart light with anticipation. Then, out of nowhere, Brittany appeared in my doorway. "What are you doing?" she asked, eyeing my half-packed bag. "Packing for a ski trip," I replied, rolling up my thermal socks. "Going to Pine Ridge with some friends from work." Brittany's face darkened. "You need to cancel." I looked up, startled by her tone. "What? Why would I do that?" "Because," she said, crossing her arms, "Kevin and I are going to Aunt Linda's 60th birthday party in Millbrook this weekend. Mom and Dad are coming too. You need to stay here with Olivia and Noah." I couldn't help but laugh, actually laugh out loud at the sheer audacity of it all. "You're joking, right?" I said, continuing to fold my ski pants. "You can't seriously expect me to cancel my plans because you didn't bother to tell me about yours?" Brittany's face turned red. "This isn't funny, Clara. You're being completely unreasonable. No, what's unreasonable is assuming I'll drop everything at a moment's notice to be your personal babysitter again." Brittany's mouth fell open. She stood there for a moment, sputtering before turning on her heel and storming out of my room. "Mom! Dad! Kevin!" I could hear her shouting down the hallway. "You won't believe what Clara is doing." I kept packing, my hands shaking slightly with anger. The thundering of footsteps announced the arrival of the cavalry. My tiny room suddenly felt even smaller as Brittany, Kevin, and my parents crowded in. Mom's face was already set in that disappointed expression I knew so well. "What's this about you going skiing?" she demanded, hands on her hips. "Exactly what it sounds like," I replied, zipping up my duffel bag. "I'm going to Pine Ridge Resort with my friends for the weekend." "But you can't!" Brittany exclaimed. "We have Aunt Linda's party." "No, you have Aunt Linda's party," I corrected her. I stopped what I was doing and turned to face them all. Why am I just hearing about this party now? Why wasn't I included in any of the planning? Mom hesitated, looking uncomfortable for the first time. Brittany jumped in, her voice dripping with condescension. "We all discussed it and decided this would work best for everyone. We go to the party, you watch the kids. It's the most logical arrangement." "You all discussed it," I repeated slowly, "without me, and decided what I would be doing with my weekend? How convenient." "Well, you can't exactly bring small children to a sophisticated party," Brittany sniffed. "Aunt Linda specifically said no kids." I shouldered my duffel bag. "Sounds like a you problem. They're your kids, Brittany. Figure it out." "What's that supposed to mean?" Kevin finally spoke up, frowning. "It means exactly what it sounds like. I have plans. I'm going skiing. Your children are your responsibility, not mine. If you can't bring them to the party, either don't go or hire a babysitter." "A babysitter?" Brittany screeched. "With what money?" "Again, not my problem." I turned to face them all, suddenly feeling stronger than I had in months, maybe years. "Let me make this perfectly clear. I am going skiing tomorrow. I am done being your free, convenient babysitter. I'm done having my weekends hijacked, my plans ignored, and my life treated like it doesn't matter. If you need childcare, Brittany, that's your responsibility as a parent. Stop assuming I'll always be there to pick up your slack." The silence that followed was deafening. They all stared at me as if I'd suddenly started speaking in tongues. Brittany's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Mom looked like she'd been slapped. Dad seemed to be trying to disappear into the doorframe. And Kevin, well, Kevin just stood there with that same confused expression he'd been wearing since his company went bankrupt. The moment of shocked silence didn't last long. Brittany's face crumpled, and she burst into theatrical sobs, covering her face with her hands. Kevin muttered something that sounded distinctly like ungrateful under his breath. "How dare you!" Mom's voice rose. "After everything we've done for you, you're being completely irresponsible." "Selfish," Dad chimed in, shaking his head. "Absolutely selfish." I stood there, my duffel bag still over my shoulder, watching my family turn into a Greek chorus of accusations. The words washed over me. Selfish, ungrateful, inconsiderate, immature. Each one meant to cut deep, to put me back in my place. Then, Mom delivered what she clearly thought would be the knockout blow. "If you walk out that door tomorrow, don't bother coming back to this house." To everyone's surprise, I burst out laughing. Not a nervous giggle, but a full, genuine laugh. They all stared at me as if I'd lost my mind. "You know what's funny?" I said, wiping tears from my eyes. "I've been dreaming about moving out of this house for months. I just didn't have the courage to do it. But here you are, giving me the perfect excuse. So thank you, Mom." "Get out!" Brittany shrieked, her fake sobs forgotten in her rage. "Just get out!" "Gladly." I pulled out my phone and dialed Jessica's number, putting it on speaker just to make a point. "Hey, Ratch, sorry to call so late, but is that offer to crash at your place still good? Not just for after skiing, but maybe for a few days?" "Of course!" Jessica's cheerful voice filled the room. "I have a spare room. Want to come over now?" "That would be perfect. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I spent the next 15 minutes gathering everything I could fit in my car. Clothes, important documents, personal items. They watched from various doorways as I made trips up and down the stairs, as if they couldn't quite believe I was really doing it. When I had loaded the last box, I walked into the living room where they had all gathered. "Oh, one more thing," I said, my voice steady. "Since I won't be living here anymore, I won't be paying any of the bills either. You'll need to figure out how to support yourselves." Mom's face went pale. But the utilities, the groceries?" "Not my problem anymore," I said, echoing my words from earlier. I turned and walked out the front door, ignoring Mom's suddenly panicked calls behind me. The drive to Jessica's place was a blur of adrenaline and relief. My phone lit up with calls and messages, angry texts from Brittany, guilt-laden novels from Mom, stern disappointments from Dad. I ignored them all, letting the weight of their demands slide off my shoulders. The next morning, Jessica and I drove to Pine Ridge Resort as planned. For the first time in what felt like forever, I did exactly what I wanted. We skied, we laughed, we sat by the fire sipping hot chocolate. Not once did I have to worry about anyone else's children or problems. When we got back Sunday night, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments. With my salary no longer going to support my family, I could finally afford something decent. By Wednesday, I found a small but bright one-bedroom apartment in a great area, just a 15-minute drive from my office. It felt like a victory, like a breath of fresh air I hadn't realized I'd been holding for so long. My first week in the new apartment felt like I was learning to breathe again. Every morning, I woke up to blessed silence. No screaming children. No blaring TV. No guilt-ridden sighs from my mother. I could make coffee and drink it while it was still hot. I could spend my evenings reading or watching whatever I wanted on Netflix, but the messages kept coming. I didn't answer the calls, but I couldn't help but read the texts. They followed the same predictable pattern. "Mom, how could you abandon your family like this? We need you." Brittany, "You're so selfish. The kids keep asking where Aunt Clara is." Dad, "Your mother is very upset. You need to make this right." "Oh." They were all variations of guilt trips and anger, accusations mixed with pleas. I read them all but responded to none. My silence seemed to send them into a frenzy. They weren't used to not having power over me. After a week of this, I sat on my new couch when Mom's number flashed on my phone again. This time, I decided to answer. "Clara! Finally!" Mom's voice was sharp, full of accusation. "I can't believe you ruined our entire weekend. Aunt Linda's party was completely disrupted because of your selfish behavior. Brittany and Kevin couldn't come because you refused to watch the children." I took a deep breath, my voice quiet but firm. "Stop. Just stop. I'm done with this, Mom. I'm done being treated like a servant in my own home. I'm done being expected to sacrifice everything, my time, my money, my life, just for everyone else's convenience. I'm done being the family ATM and free babysitter while being treated like I don't even matter." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Mom finally spoke again, her voice had shifted to that familiar, wheedling tone I knew so well. "Honey, I know things haven't been perfect, but we're family. We need you. The bills this month. We're struggling without your help." I exhaled slowly, my resolve hardening. "No, Mom, I'm done. Mom, maybe someday we can have a relationship again, but it will be on equal terms. No more manipulation. No more guilt trips. No more treating me like a walking wallet or a free childcare service. Until then, I need space to live my own life." Without waiting for a response, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked her number. Then I went through my contacts and blocked them all. Mom, Dad, Brittany, even Kevin. I blocked them on social media too. It felt terrifying and liberating all at once, like cutting the anchor lines that had been holding me down for years without even realizing it. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have my family back in my life. Maybe with enough time and distance, we can rebuild something new, something healthier, with boundaries and respect. Or maybe we won't. Either way, I'm done sacrificing my own happiness and well-being to meet their endless demands. What do you do when you realize that the family you've always tried to please never saw you for who you really are? When you've spent your life being the dependable one, the one who picks up the slack, and they still treat you like an afterthought? Clara spent years catering to her family's needs, from babysitting her sister's kids to covering bills at home. Despite all her sacrifices, she was never truly seen or appreciated. Instead, she was expected to be the one who always gave, who always did more. But when Clara finally stood up for herself, when she stopped letting them dictate her life, everything changed. The turning point came when Clara decided to stop being the family's emotional and financial support system. She stopped putting their needs before her own and took back control of her life. The backlash was swift, with accusations and guilt trips coming her way, but Clara didn't flinch. She set boundaries and made it clear that her happiness wasn't negotiable. Now, Clara is free. She's living her life on her own terms, no longer weighed down by guilt or obligation. The road hasn't been easy, but she's learning that family doesn't have the right to drain your energy and steal your joy. So, what about you? Have you ever felt like you were taken for granted by your own family? Would you have had the courage to do what Clara did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're inspired by her story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.
I was ecstatic, standing in what was supposed to be the doorway to our future. But as Caleb dropped the bombshell that his parents were moving in, that doorway felt more like a trapdoor beneath my feet. "Surprise!" Caleb exclaimed with a grin, his arms wide as if expecting praise. "My parents are going to move in with us. Won't that be great?" I stood there, stunned. This was the first I'd heard of it. The joy I'd felt just moments before evaporated, replaced by a sinking feeling in my gut. We'd just finished building our dream home. I'd poured my entire life savings into it, working long hours to afford the perfect place for Caleb and I to start our new life together. After a whirlwind romance, we'd gotten married in a small ceremony 6 months ago. While Caleb's laid-back demeanor balanced my driven intensity, I sometimes worried we wanted different things. Small comments he'd made now felt like red flags. How he'd love his mom's home cooking again, how he missed seeing his parents every day. I dismissed them as sweet sentiments, but now feared they hinted at expectations I didn't share. My parents had been wholly supportive, thrilled to see their only daughter so happy. But Caleb's parents, that was another story. From our first meeting, his mother Eleanor's piercing stare and pursed lips told me she didn't approve. His meek father Don just nodded along with pursed lips. Caleb rambled on, oblivious to my dismay. "We have that huge guest suite. It's perfect. Mom's been dying to spend more time together, and Dad could use some looking after. This solves everything." I blinked hard, trying to process his words. "You already invited them to live here?" "Well, yeah," Caleb shrugged. "I figured you'd be on board. I'm so excited." He pulled me in for a congratulatory hug. I stood frozen, unable to return the embrace. My mind raced. How could he have assumed this was okay? Ambushing me like this, on today of all days? I pulled back, looking Caleb in the eyes. "Don't you think this is something we should have decided on together?" Caleb's smile faded at my tone. "I mean, they're my parents, and we have room for them. What's the issue?" I gaped at him. Was he serious? "The issue is that this is our home that I spent years saving for. You don't just get to invite whoever you want to live here without asking me." "Whoa, calm down," Caleb said, raising his hands defensively. "I figured you'd be happy about this. They're going to be your family too now." My blood boiled at his flippant response. I dreamed of a sanctuary with my new husband, full of laughter and intimacy. Instead, Caleb seemed determined to let his parents invade the space I'd sacrificed so much for. "I agreed to build a home with you, Caleb, not with your parents," I said bluntly. "We've been married for 6 months. Don't I deserve some say in my own home?" Caleb's nonchalant facade finally cracked. "Come on, don't be like this," he pleaded. "They're getting older. They can't handle being alone. Don't make me choose between you and them." I froze as his words sank in. He was guilt-tripping me, making me out to be the bad guy for not immediately agreeing to his thoughtless decision, for wanting a say in the home I'd poured my life into. In that moment, I realized that dream home suddenly felt more like a gilded cage, one designed not just for Caleb and I, but now under the watchful eyes of his parents. Surveillance masked as family togetherness. Maybe I didn't know Caleb as well as I thought, but I knew myself, and I refused to be trapped. The next few days crawled by in tense silence. I busied myself with minor tasks, avoiding eye contact whenever I passed Caleb in the halls of our not-so-dream home. The joy I'd felt moving in just weeks before had curdled into resentment. I knew Caleb's parents would be arriving any day, invited without my consent to stay for who knows how long. The thought of Eleanor and Dawn invading my sanctuary made my skin crawl. But Caleb refused to discuss it further, shutting down any attempt I made to set boundaries. "Can we talk about this?" I asked as we washed dishes together one night. "I'm not comfortable with your parents staying indefinitely. Maybe we could compromise on a trial period first?" Caleb sighed, not meeting my eyes. "You're totally overreacting," he mumbled. "Just give them a chance. They're excited to help us get settled." I nearly shattered the plate I was scrubbing. Help us? More like control and criticize us if Eleanor had anything to do with it. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Caleb's face lit up. "They're here." He dried his hands and rushed to let them in. I followed slowly, heart sinking. There went my sanctuary. I heard Eleanor's shrill voice from the foyer. "Oh, what a unique little house this is. So modern. I could never live somewhere so cold and boxy, could you, Dawn?" Dawn just grunted in reply. My hands clenched. I designed every inch of this home after years of effort and research. I'd chosen the clean lines and contemporary style specifically. This was my dream, not theirs. Caleb and his parents came around the corner then. Eleanor frowned at my yoga pants and t-shirt. "Well, don't you look comfortable?" she said with a thin smile. Caleb shot me a warning look. I forced a pleasant tone. "Welcome. We're still unpacking, so please excuse the mess." "Oh, think nothing of it," Eleanor waved dismissively. "We're family now, after all. No need for formalities." I highly doubted she actually felt that way. I turned to Caleb, avoiding Eleanor's judgmental gaze. "Why don't you show them to the guest suite so they can settle in?" Caleb led them down the hall, Eleanor critiquing the barren, neutral decor along the way. As their voices faded, I slumped against the wall and took a deep breath. This was only day 1. Surely I could make it work somehow. Caleb was my husband, and they were his parents. Over the next few days, that optimism crumbled. Eleanor criticized everything, from my avant-garde interior design to my immodest lounge clothes to my exotic cooking. Dawn trailed after her, not saying much, but occasionally chiming in with his own disparaging remark. They commandeered the kitchen, taking over meal times. They helped themselves to anything in the fridge. They left messes without cleaning up. The structured routine Caleb and I had started establishing was utterly disrupted. My attempts to discuss boundaries only led to arguments. Caleb accused me of shirking my wifely duties of keeping his parents happy. He dismissed my feelings, saying I just needed time to warm up to them. The final straw came late one night when I overheard hushed voices in the kitchen. I crept closer, realizing it was Caleb and his parents. "You need to get her under control," Eleanor said sharply. "She has no respect for family." Caleb sighed. "I'm trying, Mom. This move was supposed to help her fall in line. She resisted at first, but I think she's coming around." I reeled, mouth falling open in shock. Fall in line? This had been their plan all along, to manipulate me into total compliance through this forced living situation. Rage roared through me. I had to take back control, starting by kicking these toxic leeches out of my home. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a pressure cooker about to blow. After what I'd overheard, any shred of optimism I had about making this work had vanished. I found Caleb in the kitchen and steeled myself. We need to talk. Now. Caleb frowned, glancing around. Keep your voice down. My parents are still sleeping. I crossed my arms. Fine, but we're having this discussion. I led him out to the back deck and took a deep breath. This isn't working. You need to tell your parents they have to move out. Caleb's eyes widened. Are you crazy? They just got here. You can't just kick them out. My anger swelled. This is my house that I paid for, and if I don't want them here, they can't stay. Caleb stepped closer, looming over me. You're being ridiculous. They're family now, whether you like it or not. I refused to be intimidated. They have treated me horribly since the moment they arrived, criticizing my home, my clothes, my cooking. Nothing is good enough for your Royal Highness Eleanor, I snapped. Caleb scowled. You're exaggerating. They're just trying to help you be a better wife and homemaker. I thought you'd appreciate the advice. I gaped at him. Help me? They've destroyed our home dynamic and undermined me at every turn. Before Caleb could argue further, we heard the back door slide open. Speak of the devil, it was Eleanor. There you are, she said to Caleb, ignoring me completely. Your father needs help programming the TV remote. This modern technology is so needlessly complicated. Caleb shot me a warning look. I'll be right there, Mom. Eleanor nodded, then wrinkled her nose at me. Oh, Jenna dear, you look so unkempt this morning. Didn't you have time to put yourself together? I was still in pajamas with messy hair at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Not that I owed her any explanation about my choices in my own home. I forced a smile. Just focused on some other priorities first. Please excuse my appearance. She shook her head. A wife should always present herself properly. Don't you agree, Caleb? Of course, Mom, Caleb replied. My fists clenched. I wanted to scream. After Caleb left with her, I took some deep breaths. Then I heard noises from down the hall. They were rifling through my office. I rushed over to find Eleanor sitting at my desk, Dawn digging through my filing cabinet. What are you doing? I demanded. They looked up, startled. Oh, we were just looking for the takeout menus so we could order lunch, Eleanor said casually. I strode over and slammed the filing cabinet shut, barely missing Dawn's fingers. Get out! My voice was ice. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Now, that's no way to speak to your in-laws. We were simply... I said, get out! I shouted. This is my office, my private space. You have no right to go through my things without permission. They scurried out, grumbling under their breaths about my shrill tone and disrespect. As they left, I caught a glimpse of a paper on my desk, my bank statement. Boiling rage flooded me. They had been snooping through my financial records. These toxic, manipulative leeches had to go. Today. I had tried reason, compromise, patience. None of it mattered. They believed I was an obstacle in their plan to control Caleb and get their claws further into my life. Well, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I was done being nice. I would do whatever it took to cut them out of my home and my marriage for good. After the office invasion, I'd had enough. The time had come for drastic measures. I was kicking them out. I found Caleb in the living room and asked to speak privately. He reluctantly followed me to the bedroom. Your parents need to leave. Today, I said bluntly. Caleb's eyebrows shot up. You're insane if you think I'm kicking my parents to the curb just because you can't get along with them, Caleb spat. I held firm. Either they go willingly, or I'll have them forcibly removed for trespassing. They have no rights here. This is my house. Caleb's face reddened with anger. You would really have my elderly parents thrown into the street? What kind of heartless bitch are you? His cruel words stung, but I didn't let it show. They're manipulative liars. All they've done is undermine and control me since they got here. I overheard you all conspiring to get me in line. I'm done being a pawn in your twisted family game. Panic flashed across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to uncover their scheme. You're imagining things, he scoffed. They just want what's best for us. I rolled my eyes. The only thing your parents care about is controlling you and isolating you from me. If you can't see that, you're more delusional than I thought. Caleb's lips curled in a sneer. Careful, Jenna. Keep running your mouth and you'll force my hand. I stood tall. Go ahead and play your hand, because unless they leave today, mine will be an eviction notice. His eyes bored into me, jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might get violent, but instead he took a breath and lowered his voice. Okay, let's say they did leave. Then what? His tone turned mocking. You get your perfect little sanctuary back? Your precious home unsullied by my family? I didn't respond, waiting for him to get to the point. Here are your options. Caleb stepped closer. 1. You accept my parents living here gracefully. 2. I divorce you and take half. We sell this place and you start over. I reeled as his ultimatum sunk in. He would actually threaten to destroy our marriage, just to keep his toxic parents around. Any love I'd once felt for him dried up in that moment. Fine, I said icily. I'll have the divorce papers ready by tomorrow morning. Shock spread across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. Too bad for him. I refused to be manipulated any longer, not even by my spineless excuse for a husband. I grabbed my purse and strode to the door. Caleb scrambled after me. Where are you going? He demanded. To contact my lawyer. I slammed the door behind me, blocking out his sputtering protests. As I pulled out of the driveway, an immense feeling of relief washed over me. I was getting my life back. Over the next few hours, I talked to my lawyer and realtor. My name was the only one on both the mortgage and deed. I had full legal claim to the house. Financial accounts were separate, with no communal assets. Caleb had no leverage. His tantrums and threats were empty. The only tie binding us was a flimsy marriage certificate, and that would soon be shredded. I returned that evening with steely calm. Caleb's parents had conveniently made themselves scarce. Caleb appeared, contrite. Look, can't we talk about this? He pleaded. I overreacted earlier. Don't do anything drastic. I held up the manila envelope from my lawyer. The only talking now will be between our attorneys. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. Caleb's face fell. For a moment I almost pitied him. He'd gambled on my compliance and lost everything. But I refused to be swayed by sentimentality. Not when my home, independence, and self-worth were at stake. He reached for me, desperation in his eyes. Jenna, please. I stepped out of reach. They'll need to be gone before the sheriff arrives to escort them out. I'll be staying in a hotel until then. Without another glance, I walked out. The dream home Caleb had lured me into was now just a crime scene. It was time to start fresh, without my failed marriage and without the in-laws from hell. The next few days passed in a blur. I split my time between my lawyer's office and the hotel, ironing out divorce details and avoiding the toxicity at home. My phone blew up constantly with calls and texts from Caleb, ranging from desperate pleading to vicious insults. His attempts to manipulate me back under his control only steeled my resolve further. I returned to the house once to check their moving progress. As expected, Caleb's parents were still clinging on. You can't just throw us out with no place to go, Eleanor shrieked as I did a walkthrough. I gave you fair warning, I said calmly. You had plenty of time to make arrangements. Don scowled from the couch. We sold our house to move here with our son, as he promised we could. Now where will we go? I shrugged. That's not my concern anymore. Staying here was never part of the deal. I left them ranting and went to find Caleb packing up the bedroom. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled. The cocky arrogance he'd once radiated was gone. Jenna, be reasonable, he pleaded. We can work this out. Just tell me what you want. I paused, looking him over. The man I'd fallen for seemed like a stranger now. What I want is for this toxic situation to end. My lawyer will be in touch. I started to leave when Caleb suddenly grabbed my wrist, hard enough to bruise. For the first time, I felt afraid. Don't do this, Jenna, he hissed through clenched teeth. You have no idea what you're starting here. Adrenaline coursed through me. I wrenched my arm from his grip. Threaten me again, and you'll only make things worse for yourself, I said coldly. Then I walked away without looking back. Soon enough, moving day arrived. With police on standby, the hostile holdouts were finally extracted from my home. Caleb glared daggers at me as they drove away in defeat. I stood on the front steps, surveying the mess they'd left behind. Caleb had clearly trashed the place in spite and anger, but the feeling of peace and freedom was worth any amount of cleanup. As I began tidying up, my phone rang with an unfamiliar local number. I answered hesitantly, wondering if it was another bullying tirade from Caleb, but instead a cheerful female voice responded. Hi, is this Jenna? Caleb's wife? I bristled at being identified that way now. Soon-to-be ex-wife, yes. Oh, she sounded surprised but not unkind. I'm so sorry, I hadn't heard. I'm Lucy, chair of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association Board. We wanted to check in on the situation. As she explained further, I realized word had spread about my in-law infestation, and the community was on my side. Lucy said neighbors had observed their rude, entitled behavior around town. Everyone was appalled when they learned of their unwanted presence in my home and the abusive way Caleb had enabled them. "You're so brave for standing up to them," Lucy said supportively. "Please let us know if you need anything. We want you to feel safe and welcome here." I was touched by the unexpected compassion from relative strangers. After feeling isolated and trapped for so long, knowing others saw the injustice of what I'd endured was validating beyond measure. Over the next few days, the neighborhood outrage became even clearer. I noticed people glaring when Caleb came to pick up more of his things. Friends he'd introduced me to stopped returning his calls. No one offered him sympathy or support. At first he seemed oblivious, ranting to me about their disloyalty. But soon enough, the shunning seemed to wear him down. I caught him sitting in his car down the street one day, head in hands. For once, he seemed to grasp the impact of his actions. Not just on me, but on how the whole community now viewed him. I almost felt bad seeing him so despondent. Then I remembered the months of manipulation he'd put me through. He'd brought this social exile on himself. As I reclaimed my home and independence, Caleb was losing everything he'd tried to build here, all because he'd gambled on my obedience to his family's cruelty. He was about to learn a hard lesson about karma's payback. After finally reclaiming my home, I settled back into a comfortable routine. The constant tension, headaches, and knots in my shoulders dissipated. For the first time in months, I could relax completely in my own space, until one night when a furious pounding on the front door jolted me upright. I crept to the window and peered out cautiously. My heart dropped. It was Caleb, with his irate parents in tow. "Open up, Jenna," Caleb yelled, still pounding. "You can't lock us out of our own home." I steeled my nerves and opened the door a crack. "I told you, this is my home now. You have no right to be here." Caleb tried pushing his way in, but I held firm. Eleanor clicked her tongue disapprovingly over my shoulder. "Don't be petty, Jenna," she scolded. "We left some things behind. Let us in to collect them." I shook my head. "I'll have them delivered to you. Now please leave before I call the police." Caleb snarled, shoving hard against the door. I couldn't hold him back. They streamed in as I stumbled back. "You can't keep me from my own house," Caleb shouted, getting in my face. "We had an agreement, remember? My parents live here, or no marriage." Heart pounding, I stood up straighter. I refused to cower in my own domain. "The agreement is void now that we're getting divorced," I said firmly. "And I have full legal rights to this property. So I'm telling you one last time, get out of my house." Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "You young people and your melodrama. You'll come to your senses eventually. Now step aside and let us by." They tried pushing past me towards the bedrooms. Adrenaline flooded my veins. I wasn't about to surrender control again. In one swift motion, I pulled out my phone and hit the panic button app linked to the security system, triggering the blaring alarm. Caleb and his parents clamped their hands over their ears, shouting in protest. I seized the moment of distraction to corral them back towards the entryway. Just then, flashing blue and red lights appeared outside as police vehicles pulled up, alerted by the alarm. The commotion must have also drawn the neighbors' attention, as heads started poking out of windows and doors down the street. 2 officers approached with stern expressions. "We received a panic alert from this residence. Is there a problem here?" Caleb tried to respond, but I stepped forward first. "Yes, officers, I need your help. My soon-to-be ex-husband and in-laws are trespassing after I've asked them multiple times to leave." I showed them the divorce paperwork and restraining order application. The officers nodded in understanding. "You 3 need to come with us," they said to my stunned intruders. Caleb protested loudly about it being his house, too, as they escorted the defiant trio out. Before the door closed, Eleanor shot me a chilling stare. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding with adrenaline, but I held her gaze steadily. I wasn't about to show fear or weakness now, not after everything I'd overcome. This was my home, my sanctuary, and I would defend it against anyone seeking to control or destroy it. Or me. As the police cars pulled away, I turned to see my neighbors congregating, offering smiles and thumbs up. Lucy even raised her glass in a mock toast before heading back inside. For the second time, I'd face down my tormentors. But this victory was even sweeter, knowing my neighbors had my back. I shut the front door, leaving the chaos outside. The police could handle Caleb and his parents now. I'd take back command of my inner peace. After all, karma had my side. And her payback wasn't finished yet. In the weeks after the showdown, I anxiously awaited retaliation from Caleb and his parents. But instead, what I heard surprised me. Rumors spread that Eleanor and Don had been rejected by every senior living facility they applied to, due to past behavioral issues. Forced to move far from family, they were isolated and miserable. Caleb's graphic design business began struggling too. Former clients pulled projects and refused to give referrals. His social media pages were flooded with scathing comments about how he'd mistreated me. Part of me felt bad as they faced the consequences of their actions. No matter how cruel they'd been, I hadn't wished such misfortune on them. But I also recognized this was their own karma, coming full circle. They'd tried manipulating me in my own home. Now they were the ones feeling powerless and adrift. Oddly, I found myself almost missing the daily drama and confrontation. The empty stillness of the house without Caleb was jarring. Building something from scratch had sounded energizing at first. Now the unknown path ahead seemed daunting. An unexpected knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts one quiet evening. I peered out cautiously. It was Lucy from the HOA. "Hey, Jenna, glad I caught you," she said warmly. "The neighborhood ladies were hoping you could come to our book club next week. We'd love to have you join us." I was touched by the gesture. "That's so kind of you. I'd love to come." As we chatted, Lucy gave me an update on the Caleb situation. She was on the HOA board for their new community as well, which had promptly evicted them after yet another dramatic run-in with security. I shook my head. Even completely uprooted, they hadn't changed their ways. At least I knew I'd made the right decision removing their toxicity from my life. Lucy and I soon fell into easy conversation. I realized how starved I'd been for friendship. I'd spent so long isolated, just trying to survive. Eventually, talk turned to my plans for the future. Lucy's eyes lit up as I hesitantly mentioned wanting to start a support group for women escaping toxic or abusive relationships. "Jenna, that's an amazing idea. You could help so many people who feel alone like you did," she said enthusiastically. Her encouragement filled me with renewed purpose. I dreamed of a sanctuary where people supported each other, not competed or controlled. Now I could create that myself. When book club night arrived, I entered Lucy's home with nervous anticipation. But the ladies welcomed me warmly, treating me as one of their own immediately. As we discussed the novel, one woman confided about leaving her critical, dismissive husband. Another described setting boundaries against intrusive in-laws. Their stories resonated all too well. Then they turned to me, listening intently as I shared a brief version of my own saga. The compassion and solidarity in their responses overwhelmed me. These virtual strangers had shown me more care and respect in one evening than Caleb's family had in months. I realized this must be what true community felt like. In that moment, my vision for the support group crystallized. I could channel my painful experience into helping build connections and strength. After book club, Lucy walked me out. "You're always welcome here," she said, squeezing my shoulder. I thanked her, wiping away a stray tear. Then I took a deep breath of the cool night air. For the first time in forever, it felt like home. Seasons changed, and life settled into a comfortable rhythm. My support group flourished, becoming a refuge for people healing from toxic relationships. Members celebrated victories, offered empathy for setbacks, and found strength in shared wisdom. Watching them bloom gave me a profound sense of purpose. I was determined to nurture this community so that no one else had to face hardship alone. With Caleb and his parents fading into a distant nightmare, I felt ready to start fresh. Lucy set me up on a few dates, which helped me remember laughter and romance. One night after a meetup with Andrew, a charming accountant, I came home to find Caleb sitting on my front steps. I froze, old anxieties flooding back at the sight of him. He stood up slowly, hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. "Hey, Jenna, I just wanted to talk, clear the air." Every instinct told me to turn him away. But he looked so haggard and defeated. I decided to at least hear him out. I crossed my arms. Say what you came here to say. Caleb shuffled his feet, avoiding eye contact. I messed up. I know that now. I was selfish and blind, and you have every right to hate me. His raw honesty surprised me. The old Caleb never would have admitted fault. I let my parents manipulate me, and I tried doing the same to you. His voice broke. You didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry. Part of me softened, seeing this remorseful, humbled man in place of the hostile stranger from before, but I couldn't erase the damage done. You put me through hell, I said bluntly. Your parents treated me horribly, and you enabled them. An apology doesn't change that. Caleb nodded, looking resigned. You're absolutely right. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just hope someday you can find peace. He turned to leave. I thought of Andrew's warmth and support, the possibility of a partnership based on trust. A clean slate waited for me, but closure was needed first. Caleb, wait, I called after him. He looked back, wary but hopeful. I chose my words carefully. I appreciate you taking accountability, and I wish you well, but our paths diverged long ago. Caleb managed a sad smile. I understand. For what it's worth, I'll always regret how things ended with us. Thank you for hearing me out. As I watched him drive away, an astonishing sense of calm washed over me. That painful chapter had finally closed. Later at book club, I told the ladies about Caleb's apology. They congratulated me on finding closure while still upholding my boundaries. You're free of that mess for good now, Lucy said, raising her wine glass. The others cheered in agreement. Their solidarity never failed to lift me up. I realized then that the home I'd tried creating with Caleb had been an illusion. My true home was here, among these people who embraced me fully. Over time, Caleb faded to a distant memory. Meanwhile, Andrew and I grew closer, bonding over long talks, easy affection, and my awful attempts at cooking. One night, as we cuddled watching TV, Andrew gestured around my cozy living room. You've made such a beautiful home, he said. I squeezed his hand, smiling contentedly. This house represented my resilience and independence, but it was the community I'd built that made it feel complete. Our home, I whispered. That flicker of rage in her eyes, I'll never forget it. Sierra stood over me, the empty wine glass still dripping red onto my dress as I reeled in shock. Whoops, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. In that moment, something ignited within me, a spark of defiance I thought had long faded. I slowly rose to my feet, the sticky wine seeping into my skin as we locked eyes in tense silence. You spiteful witch! My voice came out steady, undergirded by newfound strength. How dare you? In my own home that I opened to you. Sierra scoffed. Don't be so dramatic, Evelyn. It was an accident. Right, babe? My eldest son, Derek, watched impassively from the sofa, offering neither defense nor apology. Sierra sauntered over, draping herself on his lap as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just publicly degraded his own mother. I stood motionless as they dissolved into giggles, the sting of humiliation washing over me. This was the last straw. Sierra had chipped away at my dignity ever since she married into our family 3 years ago, slowly eroding the harmony in our home. Her vanity, selfishness, and spoiled coddling by my husband had blinded Derek to her subtle cruelty. But this act of violence, masking malice with feigned innocence, opened my eyes fully to the abuse I'd quietly endured from her. From them both. My hands balled into fists. I saw myself then not as a frail 68-year-old grandmother worn by illness, but a proud fighter ready to reclaim my power. Enough was enough. I refused to let Sierra's toxicity infect our family any longer. As I retreated upstairs, my mind racing with plans, I knew the time had come to fight back. I would start by reaching out to the one person I knew I could trust unconditionally, my youngest son, Alex. Mom, that's horrible. I had no idea, Alex said. His forehead creased in concern as I recounted the wine incident. I'd asked him to meet me discreetly at a cafe down the street from our family home, not wanting Derek or Sierra to suspect anything. She's a parasite, I said bitterly. I was blind to not see how she's manipulated all of us until now. She and Derek, they've been bleeding me dry financially ever since they moved in, hoarding my money to fund their lavish lifestyle while I struggle. Alex nodded gravely. I noticed designer clothes and fancy new gadgets, but whenever I asked Derek, he'd say it was from his big promotion at work. I let out a mirthless laugh. All lies to hide their exploitation. Sierra thinks I'm weak, an easy target, but I'll prove her dead wrong. My son regarded me with care. What can I do to help, Mom? I reached across the table and squeezed his hand, my first genuine smile in months creeping onto my face. With Alex by my side, I felt emboldened, like I had an army at my back. First, I need you to quietly gather evidence about their financial abuse, I said. Bank statements, receipts, anything we can use as proof. Confronting them outright won't work. They're too manipulative. This requires strategy. Alex nodded firmly. Of course. What next? I took a long sip of chamomile tea, savoring the calm before the storm I would soon unleash on Derek and Sierra. Next, I said coolly, we destroy their lives like they've destroyed mine. More wine, Mother? Sierra's mocking tone cut through the tense silence that had descended on our usually cheerful family dinner table. Ever since the spilling incident, as I'd come to call it, Sierra had taken to publicly needling me in petty ways, all under the guise of sweet concern. I simply stared back stonily, refusing to gratify her twisted bullying with any visible reaction. Sierra's painted lips twisted into a scowl at my non-response. Oh, let it go, love. My eldest Derek jumped in, always the peacemaker blinded by his wife's superficial charms. No need to give Mom grief. It was just an accident after all. Some accident, Alex muttered under his breath as he aggressively speared a carrot slice. My youngest had grown increasingly disgusted by Sierra's behavior since we'd had our secret cafe strategizing session last week. What was that? Sierra snapped. Nothing. Derek, ever the oblivious optimist desperate to keep up pretenses, waved his hand. Now, Sierra, be polite. We're lucky Mom welcomed us into her home when we needed help. I bit my tongue, holding back the fiery retort on the tip of my tongue. We all knew Sierra and Derek hadn't moved in with me out of any familial sentimentality or hardship. After recklessly draining their savings on frivolous luxuries, they'd targeted my vulnerability as a widow living alone, seeing a chance to bleed my retirement savings dry under the guise of needing shelter. Well, not for much longer, you parasites. The thought ignited a spark of anticipation within me. After dinner, I was meeting Alex at his apartment, where he would show me the financial evidence of Derek and Sierra's lies that could ruin them. So Derek, Alex interjected, how's the big promotion going? Must be demanding work. Though his tone sounded innocent enough, I detected the subtle confrontation in his words, a thinly veiled suggestion that perhaps Derek's promotion was as false as the rest of the web of deception he and his wife had spun. My eldest shifted uncomfortably under Alex's gaze, a flicker of something like guilt passing over his features. Going great, he managed after a pause. Just wrapped up a big project, so things are calmer now. How lovely for you both, Sierra trilled, placing a hand over Derek's in a show of wifely solidarity. Her sharp eyes, however, glared daggers at Alex. Sensing the simmering tension, Derek cleared his throat and rose abruptly from the table. Well, delicious dinner as always, Mom, he said with forced joviality. I've got some emails to catch up on for work, so I'll excuse myself. With a quick peck to Sierra's cheek, Derek hurried off. Sierra and I locked eyes as Alex began gathering dishes. The sweet facade she adopted for my son's benefit had slipped, unveiled malice marring her perfectly made-up features. You want a war, witch? I thought defiantly. You've got one now, and I intend to win. I awoke with a start, momentarily confused by the faint crashing sounds coming from downstairs. Bleary-eyed, I glanced at the clock. 2:37 a.m., blinked back angrily. My heart began to pound as more muffled bangs echoed up to my bedroom, followed by raucous laughter. Derek and Sierra. Of course. I slowly shuffled to my bedroom door and cracked it open. The couple had just returned from a rare date night out, no doubt funded by my stolen money. As their cackles grew louder, so did my boiling anger. Not only had those parasites wrecked my peaceful home with their constant demands, now they robbed me of sleep too? This had to end. Now. As I crept halfway down the stairs in darkness, the scene in my trashed living room came into focus. Derek was sprawled out on my good couch, shoes still on, and giggling drunkenly. My antique coffee table had been shoved aside carelessly, various bottles and chips littering the floor. Sierra wasn't faring much better, stumbling back from the kitchen with a bottle of my vintage wine in hand. I watched in outrage as she staggered against my bookshelf, sending a framed photo of my late husband crashing to the ground. At the shattered glass, Sierra simply cackled harder. Red-hot rage surged within me. These entitled brats had waltzed into my home, bled my bank accounts dry with manipulative lies, and now trashed my belongings like rebellious teenagers. I had enough evidence of their financial deceit to destroy them, courtesy of Alex's intel. Now this blatant property disrespect was the last straw. Steeling myself, I flicked on the lights and stomped into full view. What in God's name do you think you're doing? My voice boomed through the tense silence. Still in her glittering dress, Sierra froze mid-pour of the wine. Derek shot bolt upright, eyes widening at the damage surrounding him. We, he stammered before falling silent under my searing glare. After a weighted pause, Sierra let out an exaggerated sigh. Oh, don't look so scandalized, Evelyn. We were just having a little fun. She attempted a breezy laugh and raised her glass flirtatiously towards me, as if to diffuse the situation with her usual coquettish charm. I stalked forward until we were nearly nose to nose, pleased to see a flicker of uncertainty in her made-up eyes. How dare you, I said, my voice low and steady despite my trembling fury. How dare you vandalize my home that I opened to you, you ungrateful, spoiled brat? Sierra's lips curled into a sneer. All pretenses dropped. Or what? What will you do about it, old lady? She stepped even closer, wine fumes assaulting my nostrils as she snarled. Nothing, because you can't do a damn thing. You're weak and helpless, completely at our mercy, so why don't you scurry off back to bed like a good little old bitch? My palm cracked across her cheek before I even realized I'd swung my fist. The slap split the heavy silence like a gunshot. As Sierra let out a shriek of pain and outrage, clutching her face, I felt a rush of dark satisfaction. Get out, I whispered. Both of you, get your things and get the hell out of my house. Their destruction had gone too far. It was time for war. You can't kick us out. This is Derek's family home, too. Sierra's shrill voice echoed through the foyer. I crossed my arms, unaffected by her hysterics. After tossing the drunken couple out last night, following Sierra's cruel barbs, I'd given them until noon today to pack their things and leave. Of course, she hadn't gone quietly. Not anymore, I said coldly. I've shown Alex all the proof of your lies and theft. My lawyer is filing an official eviction notice today. I saw Sierra's hazel eyes flare with anger, and perhaps panic, before she caught herself. When she spoke again, her voice dripped with false sweetness. Evelyn, let's be reasonable, she purred, sliding up to grasp my hands in faux sincerity. This is all a big misunderstanding. We would never want to intentionally hurt you. I ripped my hands from her grip. Save it. The bank statements prove exactly where my missing retirement money has been going, straight into funding your lavish shopping sprees. Sierra opened her mouth to retaliate, but I held up a hand. I don't want to hear any more lies. You have 2 hours before I call the police. As I turned on my heel, I felt the familiar flare of pain in my lower back from my spinal condition. The doctor said stress always aggravated it, and dealing with these toxic leeches in my home had pushed me past my limit. Gritting my teeth against the spasms, I reached for the bottle of prescription oxycodone to ease the torment. To my dismay, I found it empty. Strange, I just had it refilled. Before I could ponder further, Sierra barged into my bedroom unannounced. Missing something? She asked sweetly. Dread curdled my stomach at the sight of my pill bottle dangling from her manicured fingers. I figured you didn't need these anymore, since you'll have so much peaceful relaxation without us here nagging you. I lunged forward, but Sierra anticipated me, cackling as she danced out of reach. To my horror, I watched as she stormed into my bathroom, our bathroom, and held the pills precariously over the toilet bowl. No! Stop! I need those! The rest of my plea died in my throat as she let them slip from her grasp into the swirling water with a splash. My heart dropped as months' worth of precious pain relief disappeared in seconds. Whoopsie! Sierra tilted her head, regarding me with mock concern through her thick, mascara-coated lashes. Butterfingers. I'd fish them out, but... ew! Momentarily speechless with rage, I stumbled past her towards my jewelry box on the counter. If she thought a little pain would stop me from banishing them, she was dead wrong. But when I opened the box, I found it empty. Now I knew why the scheming addict had trespassed uninvited into my private space. The sight of my most treasured pearls and heirlooms stolen and discarded pushed me over the brink. With strength I didn't know I possessed, I grabbed Sierra's skinny shoulders and slammed her against the bathroom tiles. She yelped loudly. Up close, I could see a sliver of fear behind the disdain in her eyes. "You listen to me, you toxic leech," I hissed into her face. "Nothing will stop me from destroying you and Derek for what you've done." I pressed my forearm harder across her collarbone as she squirmed. "Now for the last time, get the hell out!" I stepped back, adrenaline and rage coursing through me as Sierra fled from the room. The war was on. "It's done. The eviction notice has been served," Alex said, setting a folder thick with legal documents on the cafe table. I let out a long sigh, feeling the knot in my chest loosen slightly. After Derek and Sierra's cruelty reached new heights yesterday, I'd barely slept a wink. Now the first step of my vengeance was officially in motion. "Thank you, Alex," I said, squeezing his hand gratefully. "I couldn't have faced those monsters without you by my side." My son nodded. "I still can't believe Derek refused to answer my calls last night. He knows Sierra crossed the line, but he's so deep under her spell." Disgust dripped from Alex's voice. "She's completely corrupted him," I agreed bitterly. "I just pray we can bring Derek back to his senses someday." I shook my head before taking a long draught of coffee. "But first, we make them suffer." Determination flashed in Alex's eyes. "You said Sierra physically tormented you. We could report them for elder abuse." "Not enough," I said coolly. After years pandering to those parasites' wishes, I wanted to hit them where it truly hurt, their beloved social status. An idea began percolating. "We need to turn their fancy social circles against them," I continued. "Publicly drag their reputations through the mud, share evidence of their lies for all to see." Alex frowned uncertainly. "I don't know, Mom. A reputation attack could really devastate them." I leaned forward. "Exactly. Sierra and Derek care about nothing except money and admiration from their vapid country club world. So we rip that all away by exposing them." My hands trembled slightly as I recalled Sierra's mocking face. "After what she did to me, what they did, they deserve no mercy." I watched Alex wrestle with his conscience before resolve hardened his expression. "Okay," he agreed. "Where do we start?" Over the next hour, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, Alex and I outlined our retaliation scheme. Step 1 involved anonymously sending Derek's workplace the proof of his financial deception, putting his lucrative job at risk. Meanwhile, I would subtly inform Sierra's gossip-hungry socialite friends about her treatment of me, seeding rumors that would spread rapidly. By the time Derek lost his job, Sierra's reputation would also be shredded by scandal among their social circle. Their lives here would be untenable. Checkmate. As we parted ways, Alex pulled me in for a fierce hug. "It'll be okay, Mom," he said gently. "We've got this nightmare handled now." Pride and optimism swelled within me then. My son was right. The dawn had arrived to banish these parasites for good. Now we would make Derek and Sierra sorry they ever darkened our door. Over the next week, Alex and I vigilantly executed our plot as Derek and Sierra scrambled to fight the eviction notice. Phase 1 went smoothly. Alex mailed reams of incriminating evidence against Derek to his bosses. Meanwhile, fueled with self-righteous fury, I dropped whispered gossip bombs among Sierra's acquaintances at social events I knew they'd attend. By the time they left each venue, tongues would already be wagging with scandal about Sierra's cruelty against a helpless old woman. Soon enough, Alex and I noted whispers dying down awkwardly as Sierra entered rooms. Eyes that were once warm with envy now glared with contempt. I even witnessed one ringleader of Sierra's clique publicly snub her at a ladies' luncheon. Watching Derek and Sierra's glittering facade slowly crack bolstered my energy. The parasites were getting a taste of long-overdue karma, and my vengeance hungered for more. Soon, the fatal blow would strike. Our scheme was unfolding perfectly. This was it. Phase 2 of my master vengeance plan went into motion today, destroying Derek's career and reputation just as he and his wicked wife have destroyed me these past bitter years. My hands trembled slightly as I carried the anonymous package into the mailroom of Derek's prestigious finance firm. Thanks to Alex's inside intel, I knew exactly when new mail deliveries arrived to ensure my parcel would land directly on the CEO's desk today. The thick manila envelope contained hard evidence of Derek's deceit. Phony promotion paperwork, emails showing him misusing company funds for personal gain. Once exposed to the light, Derek's house of lies would come crashing down spectacularly. After handing the sealed fate to the clerk, I retreated outside to meet Alex around the corner. As soon as I slid into the passenger seat, questions spilled from my son's mouth. "It's done? They'll definitely see it?" His eyes shone with anticipation. My lips curved into a smile. Without a doubt. I made sure to address it directly to the CEO and partners. I pictured my parasitic son squirming under his boss's scrutiny and felt a flare of dark satisfaction. "Bullseye shot, Mom. Nice work," Alex grinned and reached over for a high five. As our palms slapped in camaraderie, I let out a breath I'd been holding for years since Sierra first darkened my door as Derek's vapid arm candy. Today marked the beginning of her downfall as well, and freedom for Alex and me. My phone buzzed with an update from my insider society lady, Magda. She confirmed catching Sierra drunk and belligerent at a country club luncheon today, throwing a spectacular tantrum for all the gossipy patrons to see when confronted about her treatment of me. I smirked, envisioning the scandalized faces of Seattle's most influential wives and matriarchs aghast at her audacity. Sierra's social death was all but guaranteed now. Alex and I decided to swing by a cafe near Derek's office to lay low for a few hours, not wanting to arouse suspicion by returning home too quickly. We passed the time eagerly dissecting potential scenarios, Derek being escorted out by security, Sierra's designer gal pals icing her out forever, their lavish leased cars repossessed within the month. I halfway listened as Alex prattled on about his new girlfriend and her plans to take me on a scenic mountain hiking trip. My gaze remained fixed out the window facing Derek's building, hungry for signs of implosion. Finally, just as the cafe owner flipped the open sign to closed, it happened. Derek emerged at a jog through the lobby's revolving doors. Tie loose, hair disheveled, face pale as a corpse. My breath caught as he frantically scanned the dark street before booking it towards his BMW. "Mom, look!" Alex's whispered voice barely penetrated my fixation. We both instinctively sunk lower in our seats as Derek's car roared out of the underground parking ramp and streaked by in the night. My hands, though liver-spotted with age, clenched into fists of unsated vengeance. Seeing Derek utterly unraveled after years of his soul-crushing deception tasted sweet, but like a perfectly seared steak, I hungered to fully savor the meal I'd cooked up. "One parasite down," I muttered under my breath. Alex touched my shoulder, solidarity passing between us. Now time to squash the queen bee. 1 week after Derek lost his executive job under the black cloud of scandal, Alex and I drank tea on my back patio, waiting for the other parasite shoe to drop. "Sierra missed her nail appointment yesterday," Alex said, "and salon gossip confirmed none of her circle invited her on Carol's annual Aspen trip this year." I nodded, blowing gently on my steaming cup. Bit by bit, Sierra's social bonds unraveled as my gossip campaign exposed her cruel ways. With Derek also in the doghouse, her golden perch atop Seattle's who's who started crumbling quickly. Now we anticipated the fatal blows to drive our revenge home. Right on cue, the patio door suddenly banged open. Sierra stomped out, mascara streaking her contorted face. I set my cup down, steeling my expression into cool indifference despite Sierra's histrionics. "Help me. I think my brakes were tampered with." She collapsed into the wicker chair opposite me, burying her face in manicured hands. I arched an eyebrow. Car issues were just the newest calamity plaguing her in recent weeks. "Excellent. What makes you think that?" I asked lightly, keeping my tone free of genuine concern. Alex swiveled to monitor Sierra, a perfect accomplice keeping up normal appearances. Sierra lifted her head, hazel eyes burning with fury despite the smudged makeup. "This is all your fault. Ever since your stupid eviction scheme, my life has fallen apart." She swept out a hand dramatically. "My friends shun me. Derek can't find work. Now potentially deadly car attacks. I know you're targeting me." I took a slow, leisurely sip of tea before responding calmly. "You've always been overly dramatic, Sierra. Nonetheless, I wish you and Derek nothing but the best moving forward." "Oh, cut the fake sweetness, you hag." She snatched up an empty planter pot, and for a moment I thought she might try to attack me again. Instead, she hurled it against the cedar fence with a frustrated shriek. I didn't flinch as terracotta shards exploded across the pavers at my feet. I'd appreciate you not destroying my patio furnishings. Sierra's chest heaved rapidly, wet eyes still flashing daggers at me. But despite the aggressive posturing, her face had a hollow, worn appearance now. The queen bee's protective social armor lay in tatters, exposing her pettiness nakedly for all to see. My schemes had achieved exactly that, and I watched her crack and crumble with growing satisfaction. Just then, Alex's phone buzzed loudly in the tense silence. His eyes blew wide at the caller ID image, and he angled the screen for me to see. A glamorous woman wrapped around a shirtless, muscular man. Clearly not Derek. Bold text across the image read, "Cheating Sierra strikes again." My lips curled triumphantly. Our insider spies had captured Sierra's latest infidelity bombshell, another crushing blow I'd orchestrated to her status. Sierra lunged, but Alex yanked the phone out of reach. "That's photoshopped. I never cheated." She attempted a breezy laugh, but it came out shrill and frantic. "Right, Evelyn? Tell him that's fake." I held Sierra's panicked gaze, watching her shredded dignity burn away, my vengeance nearly complete. Finally, I drew myself up slowly. "I think it's time for you two parasites to truly leave my home." My voice rang with quiet authority. Sierra gaped, speechless. As she stormed away and surrendered defeat, Alex and I toasted over fresh tea. The parasites were banished for good. I had reclaimed my power at last. I awoke to golden rays of dawn streaming through my bedroom windows, the first morning in years where hope instead of dread propelled me out of bed. After banishing Derek and Sierra from my life forever yesterday, joyful relief now flooded my veins. I stretched slowly, for once not bothered by my creaky joints or chronic back pain. Healing was finally possible with those emotional vampires gone. I found Alex humming cheerily over a sizzling skillet when I drifted downstairs an hour later. "Morning, Mom. Celebratory cheese omelets?" He smiled brightly. My heart warmed at his infectious mood. With the parasites gone, Alex was positively thriving, his caring spirit unburdened. Over fluffy eggs and strong coffee, we chatted lightly about starting house repairs. Alex insisted on repainting Sierra's gaudy glam room gray to cleanse her tacky energy. As he rambled excitedly about redecorating visions, emotion suddenly clogged my throat. After years battling trauma alone, now I had my loyal son beside me, ready to heal wounds and reconnect. I squeezed Alex's hand tightly across the counter. "Thank you," I whispered, "for fighting with me. I love you so much." Alex squeezed back firmly. "We did this together. I'm just grateful to have my strong mom back." He smiled softly. "Those parasites will never hurt our family again." Over the next few weeks, Alex made good on his home improvement promises, while I regained vigor and mobility. Soon colorful gardens sprung up outside, while inside, cherished antique furniture emerged from basement storage back into their rightful places. Alex also urged me to share our story with others experiencing elder exploitation. "What you did was so brave, facing abusive family members," he insisted. "Your experience could help other seniors speak up, too." Weeks later at my first community center meeting, apprehension and stage fright struck me momentarily mute. But seeing the attendees' encouraging faces, I found my voice. And soon my speech about overcoming parasitic relationships through courage and strategy planning roused a standing ovation. In the whirlwind months that followed, between decor upgrades with Alex and counseling other seniors, I hardly had time to ponder Derek and Sierra's fate since their raging departure. Only vague rumors circulated among my society circles of their disgrace. So I was surprised when Alex poked his head into the living room one autumn afternoon as I reviewed brochures for an elder justice conference. "Mom, there's a woman outside asking to see you," he said carefully. My eyebrow quirked up. I rarely had unannounced visitors anymore. Before I could respond, Alex stepped back to reveal Sierra hovering behind him sheepishly. I slowly rose to my feet. Even with uncomfortably bleached hair and pounds thinner, I immediately recognized the haughty tilt of Sierra's chin. But her flashy designer clothes had been replaced by a simple turtleneck and jeans. Oddly, her hazel eyes lacked their usual combative scorn as well. I crossed my arms warily. "May I help you?" "You think you married a simple girl, but you're clueless about who I really am," I whisper under my breath, my fingers tightening around the edge of the kitchen counter. The cold marble, does little to soothe the burning fury inside me, ignited by Ronan's words slicing through the air from the living room. His laughter, laced with disdain, seeps through the walls, a stark contrast to the silence enveloping me in my refuge. I mean, Alara's great and all, but she's not exactly the brightest. Got lucky marrying into our family, if you ask me, Ronan boasts on the phone, his voice dripping with a condescension that's become all too familiar. My heart races, every beat a reminder of the drastic shift our marriage has taken. From the charming suitor who'd once courted me with grand gestures and sweet nothings, to the man who now finds sport in belittling his wife to his friends. The transformation wasn't overnight, but the descent from indifference to outright contempt and control was swift. Working in my mother's boutique was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, a way to help out while searching for something more aligned with my degree. Yet here I stand, years later, still folding clothes and dodging my husband's barbs about my lack of ambition. If only you knew, I mutter to the empty room, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Ronan's voice grows louder, pulling me from my thoughts. Honestly, thought her family had more money. You know, with the boutique and all. Turns out, not so much. The revelation stings, not because of the truth in his words. Our financial struggles are no secret to me, but because of the implication. He married me under false pretenses, his affections as fabricated as the persona he paraded during our courtship. The facade crumbles a little more each day, revealing the true extent of his expectations. A hefty dowry, and a wife who would bend to his every whim. But beneath the veneer of the compliant spouse, a storm brews, fueled by the discovery of his hidden debts and gambling habits. The weight of his duplicity presses down on me, a constant reminder of the life I've been ensnared in. A plan begins to form, vague and unrefined, but it's a start. A way out of the shadows, to cast light on the man behind the mask. The thought is both terrifying and exhilarating. Patience, I remind myself, echoing my mother Sylvia's advice. She doesn't know the full extent of Ronan's transgressions, but she's always sensed the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. The sound of Ronan ending his call pulls me back to the present, the immediate need to conceal my turmoil paramount. I straighten, schooling my features into a mask of indifference before stepping back into the living room. Ronan doesn't spare me a glance, too engrossed in his phone, and for a moment, I'm grateful for the neglect. The evening passes with minimal interaction, a dance we've perfected over the months. But as I lay in bed, Ronan's snores filling the room, I can't help but feel the shift within me. The veil has lifted, and with it, the resolve to no longer be the victim in my own story. Tonight, the seeds of rebellion are sown, watered by the bitter tears of realization and the silent vow of retribution. Tomorrow, I begin to fight back, armed with the truth and the determination to reclaim my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit. The sun hadn't even crept through the curtains before Ronan's voice pierced the morning silence, a harbinger of the storm to come. "Alara, what's this? The coffee tastes like mud." His words, sharp and unforgiving, sliced through the last remnants of sleep clinging to my consciousness. I must have mixed up the measurements, I stammer, my voice barely above a whisper as I rush to his side, mug in hand. The truth is, the coffee is the same as it always is, but with Ronan, any minor deviation, or imagined one, is grounds for criticism. "Useless," he mutters under his breath, pushing the mug into my hands with such force that the hot liquid sloshes over the sides, scalding my skin. I wince, but dare not let the pain show. Showing weakness only fuels his disdain. As I turn to remake the coffee, trying to steady my trembling hands, Ronan's voice follows me, relentless. "And make sure breakfast is ready on time today. I have an important meeting. Can't afford to be late because you're dawdling." The morning wears on, each moment laden with tension. Breakfast is a silent affair, Ronan buried in his phone, occasionally throwing out commands or criticisms. The eggs are too runny, the toast not crisp enough. It seems there's no end to his displeasure. It's during these moments, caught in the cyclone of Ronan's demands, that I ponder the drastic change in him. The man I married, who once spoke of love and partnership, now sees me as little more than a servant in his grand scheme of life. The realization stings, a bitter pill swallowed daily. The door slams shut behind him, a temporary reprieve from his tirades. But the silence left in his wake is heavy, a constant reminder of the farce my life has become. I clear the breakfast dishes, my movements automatic, thoughts miles away. It's in this mechanical state that I find the envelope, used hidden beneath a pile of unopened bills, a reminder of another of Ronan's secrets. His gambling habits, once a mere whisper of concern, have ballooned into a full-blown storm, threatening to engulf us both. The numbers scrawled across the bills are astronomical, figures that we can't possibly hope to cover with the boutique's modest earnings and Ronan's dwindling salary. I sit, the weight of the envelope in my hands, a tangible symbol of the lies and deceit that have woven their way through our marriage. It's this moment, this tangible proof of Ronan's betrayal, that solidifies my resolve. No longer can I stand idly by, a spectator in my own life. The day drags on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the evening confrontation that awaits. When Ronan returns, his mood is foul, the remnants of whatever transpired at his meeting written clearly across his face. Before I can brace myself, he's upon me, his words a torrent of blame and anger. Do you have any idea how much pressure I'm under? And what do I come home to? A wife who can't even make a decent cup of coffee. The accusations sting, but they also fuel a fire within me. Ronan, we need to talk about the bills. The gambling debts. We can't. He cuts me off with a scoff, his eyes narrowing. Oh, so now you're keeping tabs on me? I work day in, day out, and this is the thanks I get? The argument spirals, his anger a palpable force that threatens to consume the room. But amidst the chaos, a clarity settles over me. This isn't just about surviving Ronan's tirades anymore. It's about reclaiming my life, piece by shattered piece. I won't let you drag us down with your debts, I assert, my voice steadier than I feel. We're going to fix this, but not like this. Not with lies. Ronan's response is a sneer, a promise of more battles to come. But as I stand my ground, I realize that this is just the beginning. The facade of our marriage has crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. And it's up to me to clear the wreckage, to forge a path out of the despair Ronan has cloaked us in. A year into our marriage, the facade of harmony has not just cracked but shattered, revealing the grim reality of our union. Ronan's abuse, both verbal and emotional, has escalated, pushing me into a corner of isolation and despair. Yet, it's in this darkness that a plan begins to take shape, a beacon of hope in the relentless storm. Sitting across from my mother, Sylvia, in the dim light of the boutique after hours, I finally muster the courage to voice the truth. Mom, Ronan's not who we thought he was. The gambling, the debts, it's worse than I ever imagined. Sylvia's expression, a mix of concern and resolve, doesn't waver. Alara, you've been carrying this burden alone for too long. It's time we face this head on. But how? He's made it clear he won't change. And now, there's talk of selling the boutique to cover his debts, I confess, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. We won't let that happen, Sylvia asserts, her voice firm. It's time Ronan understood the consequences of his actions. We've been silent for too long. The strategy we devise is simple, yet daring. We'll confront Ronan, not with accusations, but with the stark reality of our financial situation. It's a gamble, but one we're willing to take to expose his true motives. The opportunity presents itself one evening when Ronan, in a rare moment of calm, mentions the boutique. Alara, we need to talk about selling. It could solve a lot of our problems. Standing in our living room, I feel Sylvia's supportive presence behind me as I face him. Ronan, the boutique isn't the problem, it's the solution. Your gambling is what's brought us here. Ronan's reaction is immediate, his face contorting with anger. So this is my fault? I'm working day and night, and you blame me? It's not about blame. It's about reality. Your debts are drowning us, and selling the boutique won't fix that, I reply, my voice steady despite the shaking of my hands. Sylvia steps forward, her demeanor unyielding. The boutique has been in our family for generations. It's not just a business, it's our legacy, and we won't let it be destroyed by recklessness. Ronan's gaze shifts between us, a mixture of surprise and defiance in his eyes. You think you can dictate what I do? It's my name on the line. But it's our lives at stake, I counter, emboldened by my mother's strength. We're willing to work with you, Ronan, but not at the expense of our future. The standoff ends with Ronan storming out, his threats echoing behind him. But in his absence, a sense of unity fortifies between my mother and me. For the first time in months, I feel a flicker of hope. The following days are tense, with Ronan's mood swinging wildly. Yet there's a shift in the air, a sense that the tide may be turning. My resolve hardens with each passing moment, the plan to expose Ronan's true motives gaining clarity. One evening, as I sit alone in the boutique pondering the path ahead, a knock at the door jolts me from my thoughts. It's Jude, an old friend and confidant, whose unexpected visit brings a sense of normalcy to my chaotic world. "Alara, I've been worried about you. How are you holding up?" Jude's concern is genuine, a balm to the wounds inflicted by months of turmoil. "It's complicated. Ronan's not the man I thought he was," I admit, the words flowing more freely than I anticipated. Jude listens intently, his expression a mix of anger and sympathy. "You don't have to go through this alone, Alara. If there's anything I can do..." It's in this moment, confiding in Jude, that the final piece of our plan crystallizes. Ronan's actions, once hidden behind closed doors, will soon be brought to light. With Jude's unexpected support, the journey toward justice and revenge seems less daunting. Together, we begin to lay the groundwork for Ronan's public exposure, a step toward reclaiming my life from the ruins of a marriage built on deceit and manipulation. The flu hit me like a freight train, leaving me bedridden and weak. In any other household, sickness might elicit a modicum of sympathy or care. But in mine, it's seen as nothing more than an inconvenience, a failure to fulfill my duties as Ronan's wife. "Alara, this place is a mess," Ronan barks, his voice booming through the small, dark, cluttered apartment that's felt more like a prison than a home these past months. "And what's this? You're still in bed?" It's nearly noon. Struggling to sit up, I clutch the blanket tighter around my shivering body. "I'm really not well, Ronan. I can barely stand," I manage to say, my voice weak and hoarse. Ronan's glare is icy as he surveys the room, his disgust palpable. "Sick? Or just lazy? You know, I can't rely on you for anything." His words cut deeper than the sharp pains racking my body. It's in this moment of vulnerability, faced with his unrelenting cruelty, that the resolve within me hardens further. I need to escape this cycle of abuse, not just for my sake, but for my sanity. As Ronan storms out, presumably to find solace in his vices, I'm left alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of desperation. It's then that I remember Jude's offer of support. Picking up my phone feels like lifting a boulder, but the need for an ally, for someone to understand, gives me strength. Jude answers on the second ring. "Alara, how are you?" "Jude, I need help," I admit, the admission of weakness bringing tears to my eyes. There's no hesitation on his end. "I'll be right there," he says, and the line goes dead. When Jude arrives, the concern in his eyes is a stark contrast to the disdain I've grown accustomed to from Ronan. He doesn't recoil at the sight of the disarray or my disheveled state. Instead, he steps forward, ready to offer whatever aid he can. "Alara, tell me what to do. How can I help?" Jude asks, his voice steady and comforting. "Just being here is more than enough," I reply, a small smile breaking through the gloom. Together, we tidy up the space, his presence a calming force in the storm that has become my life. It's during this rare moment of peace that I confide in Jude the full extent of Ronan's behavior, the manipulation, the debts, and the emotional torment. Jude listens in silence, his expression hardening with each revelation. "This can't go on, Alara. You deserve so much better," Jude says once I've finished, his conviction clear. "I know, but I'm not sure what to do. I feel so trapped," I confess, the weight of my situation bearing down on me. Jude's response is immediate and resolute. "We'll find a way. You're not alone in this. Remember that." As Jude leaves, promising to return with help, I'm left with a newfound sense of determination. His visit, though brief, has reignited the flame of resistance within me. I can't change the past, but with Jude's support, I can fight for a future free from Ronan's tyranny. The days that follow are a blur of planning and whispered conversations. Jude becomes an invaluable ally, offering both emotional support and practical assistance. Together, we begin to document Ronan's abuses, compiling evidence for the day when we can finally expose him and break free from his grasp. It's a dangerous game we're playing, one fraught with risk and uncertainty, but the alternative, a life of continued abuse and despair, is no longer an option. With each passing day, my resolve strengthens, fueled by the support of my unlikely ally and the hope for a brighter future. The path to freedom is fraught with obstacles, but for the first time in a long time, I dare to believe that escape is within reach. Jude's unexpected visit had breathed new life into my wilted spirit, his presence a beacon of hope in the unending night that had become my existence. It was during one of these visits, as we sat plotting our next move in the quiet sanctuary of my mother's boutique after hours, that fate decided to twist the knife a bit further. Ronan, in a rare and unforeseen move, decided to grace the boutique with his presence. His sudden appearance at the door was like a storm cloud blotting out the sun, casting a shadow over the newfound hope I had clung to so desperately. "Alara, what the hell is this? Playing shop while the house falls apart." Ronan's voice boomed through the space, his words laced with venom. Jude, ever the pillar of calm in the face of adversity, stood beside me, an unwavering ally against Ronan's tempest. "Everything's under control, Ronan. Maybe you should head back," Jude suggested, his tone firm yet diplomatic, a stark contrast to Ronan's aggression. Ronan's eyes narrowed, his gaze flitting between Jude and me, suspicion igniting like wildfire in his eyes. "And who are you to tell me what to do? Another of Alara's little projects?" The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to squeeze the very breath from my lungs. Yet, despite the fear that clawed at my insides, a spark of defiance flickered to life. "Jude is a friend, someone who actually cares about my well-being," I retorted, my voice stronger than I felt. Ronan's laugh was cruel, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "A friend, huh? Don't make me laugh. You're pathetic, Alara, both of you." It was then, amidst the torrent of Ronan's insults, that Jude did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone, subtly positioning it to capture the tirade. Ronan, too caught up in his own fury, failed to notice the silent witness documenting his every word. As Ronan stormed out, leaving a trail of bitter words in his wake, Jude turned to me, his expression grave. "I got it all on video, Alara. This could be what we need to expose him." The realization of what Jude had done, of the weapon we now possessed, was overwhelming. A mixture of fear and exhilaration flooded through me, the implications of our actions both terrifying and thrilling. "Thank you, Jude. I don't know what to say." Jude's smile was gentle, a balm to the chaos that had erupted. "You don't have to say anything. Just know you're not alone." In the days that followed, the video became the cornerstone of our plan. Jude, with contacts in local media and a keen sense of justice, began laying the groundwork for Ronan's exposure. Our meetings were filled with whispered strategies and cautious optimism, each step forward a delicate dance on the tightrope of revenge. The decision to go public was not made lightly. The potential fallout loomed large, a specter of consequence that could not be ignored. Yet, the need for justice, for an end to the cycle of abuse, outweighed the fear. "It's time, Alara. Are you ready?" Jude asked one evening, his finger hovering over the send button that would catapult our carefully guarded secret into the unforgiving light of public scrutiny. Taking a deep breath, I nodded, the weight of the moment settling heavy on my shoulders. "I'm ready. Let's do this." With a single click, Jude set the wheels of retribution in motion. The video, a damning testament to Ronan's true nature, was sent spiraling into the digital ether, a harbinger of the storm to come. As we waited for the inevitable backlash, a sense of peace settled over me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I dared to hope for a future free from the shadows of Ronan's tyranny. The battle was far from over, but with Jude by my side, I felt invincible. Together, we had ignited the flame of justice, and now there was no turning back. The morning after sending the video felt like the calm before the storm. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos I knew was brewing on the horizon. Jude and I met at the boutique, our unofficial war room, waiting for the inevitable explosion that would come once Ronan discovered his sins laid bare for all to see. It wasn't long before the first signs of the tempest appeared. My phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications flooding in as the video spread like wildfire across social media platforms. The local news had picked up the story, amplifying it further, the headline screaming betrayal and deceit. "Alara Morris exposes husband's abuse and deceit." It read, a simple yet powerful declaration of my stand against Ronan. As the world watched, Ronan's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers voiced their support for me, their words a balm to the wounds inflicted over the years. But with the support came backlash, Ronan's defenders crawling from the woodwork, their words sharp and unforgiving. I was preparing for another day at the boutique when Ronan stormed in, his face a mask of rage and humiliation. "You've ruined me, Alara," he spat, his voice trembling with fury. "How dare you air our dirty laundry for the world to see?" Standing my ground, I met his gaze, the fear that once would have crippled me, now replaced by a steadfast resolve. "No, Ronan, you did this to yourself. I'm just shedding light on the truth." The confrontation was intense, Ronan's anger clashing with my newfound strength. Jude was there, a silent sentinel, ready to intervene if necessary. But it was clear Ronan's power over me had diminished, his threats empty in the face of my determination. "You'll pay for this," Ronan hissed, a final desperate attempt to regain control. But his words no longer held sway over me. "I already have, Ronan. Now it's your turn." The fallout from the video was swift and merciless. Ronan's professional life unraveled as his employer, faced with public pressure, terminated his position. His social circle, once a fortress of support, crumbled as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with a man exposed as an abuser and manipulator. With each passing day, the reality of his situation seemed to weigh heavier on Ronan, his once confident demeanor replaced by a sullen, defeated air. The tables had turned, and the predator found himself the prey, isolated and ostracized by the very community he had once dominated. For me, the days became a blur of interviews and meetings, my story a rallying cry for those who had suffered in silence. The support was overwhelming, a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of the human spirit. As Ronan's world collapsed around him, a sense of vindication filled me. It wasn't joy. There was no joy in the pain and suffering that had led to this moment, but a deep, profound sense of justice. For too long, I had lived in the shadows of Ronan's tyranny, but no more. The battle was far from over. Legal proceedings loomed on the horizon, a daunting path fraught with its own challenges. But as I stood in the boutique, now a beacon of hope and defiance, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. With Jude by my side and a community of supporters behind me, I stepped into the light, a survivor no longer defined by the abuse I had endured, but by the strength I had found in my fight for justice. Ronan's downfall was not the end of my story, but the beginning of a new chapter, one written on my terms, in my voice. The repercussions of Ronan's exposure reverberated far beyond the initial shockwave, eroding the very foundation of his existence. His professional downfall was swift, a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions. But it was the personal fallout that truly marked the beginning of his undoing. Ronan, once a fixture in social circles, now found himself ostracized, a pariah in the community he had dominated. The isolation was a bitter pill to swallow, each day a reminder of the empire of lies he had built and lost. I watched from a distance, my resolve unshaken, as Ronan grappled with his new reality. The boutique became my sanctuary, a place of strength and solidarity. Jude was a constant presence, his support unwavering as we navigated the aftermath together. It was during one of our strategy sessions that Ronan made his last desperate attempt to regain control. He barged into the boutique, his eyes wild with desperation. "Alara, you have to stop this. You're destroying everything." His plea was met with cold indifference. "You did this to yourself, Ronan. I'm just seeking justice." Ronan's gaze flickered between Jude and me, searching for any sign of weakness. But there was none to be found. "You'll regret this," he muttered, a hollow threat that no longer held any power. The legal proceedings were grueling, a drawn-out battle that tested my limits. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, more confident in my pursuit of justice. Ronan's attempts to undermine me fell on deaf ears, his credibility shattered by his own actions. As the divorce settlement was finalized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. The court awarded me a substantial portion of Ronan's assets, a small compensation for the years of deceit and abuse. But it was more than just financial security. It was a symbol of my victory over Ronan, a tangible proof of my newfound independence. "You're free now, Alara," Jude said, his voice filled with pride. The words resonated deep within me, a beacon of hope in the aftermath of the storm. I know, it's finally over. In the months that followed, Ronan's life continued to unravel. His attempts to rebuild his reputation were futile, the stain of his actions indelible. The man who had once held so much power was now a shadow of his former self, struggling to navigate a world that had turned its back on him. For me, the end of my marriage to Ronan marked the beginning of a new chapter. The boutique thrived, a testament to my resilience and determination. And with each passing day, I found strength in my independence, my spirit no longer weighed down by the chains of the past. As I stood in the boutique, surrounded by friends and supporters, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but I had emerged stronger, a survivor in the truest sense. "Here's to new beginnings," Jude toasted, raising his glass in a salute. I smiled, my heart full of gratitude for the support that had carried me through the darkest of times. "To new beginnings," I echoed, my voice steady and sure. The battle was over, but my story was just beginning. A story of hope, of courage, and of a woman who refused to be silenced. Ronan's downfall was not just a victory for me, but for all those who had suffered in silence, a beacon of light in the darkness. As I looked around at the faces of my friends and supporters, I knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. A chance to rebuild, to dream, and to live a life free from the shadows of the past. In the aftermath of Ronan's downfall, life began to take on a new rhythm, one marked by peace rather than turmoil. The boutique, once a silent witness to my suffering, became a vibrant hub of creativity and empowerment. With each passing day, I found myself stepping more confidently into the role of proprietor, my mother's legacy now firmly in my hands. It was during a quiet morning, the sun casting a warm glow over the newly arranged displays, that Sylvia approached me, her eyes shining with unspoken pride. "You've done well, Alara. Your strength has turned this place into more than just a boutique. It's a symbol of hope." Her words, simple yet profound, filled me with a sense of accomplishment. "Thanks, Mom. It feels good to be free, to make a difference." The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a community. Women from all walks of life came not just to shop, but to share their stories, finding solace and strength in the solidarity we offered. And as my story became known, the boutique's mission evolved, transforming into a beacon for those seeking to reclaim their lives from the shadows of abuse. One afternoon, as I was rearranging a window display, a familiar face appeared on the other side of the glass. Jude, his supportive presence a constant throughout my journey, stepped inside, a smile playing on his lips. "Looks like you've turned this place into something truly special, Alara," he commented, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant interior. I smiled, acknowledging the truth in his words. "It's become more than I ever imagined, and it's all thanks to the support of friends like you." Jude's smile widened. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world. You've turned your pain into something powerful, Alara. You should be proud." Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a customer, a young woman whose eyes held a familiar flicker of resolve. As Jude excused himself, I turned my attention to her, ready to offer the same support that had once been extended to me. The boutique was not just a place of business. It had become a sanctuary, a place where stories of pain and resilience were woven into the very fabric of its existence. And as I shared my journey, I found strength in the shared experiences, a collective healing that transcended the personal. In the months that followed, my advocacy work grew, the boutique serving as a launching pad for initiatives aimed at supporting survivors of domestic abuse. Seminars, workshops, and support groups filled our calendar, each event a step towards breaking the silence that had once kept me prisoner. As I closed the boutique one evening, the last rays of sunlight casting a soft glow over the empty space, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. The journey had been long, filled with moments of despair and triumph, but as I stood there, surrounded by the tangible evidence of my resilience, I felt a deep, abiding sense of peace. Ronan's shadow no longer loomed over my life. Instead, I had emerged from the darkness, my spirit unbroken, my resolve unwavering. The boutique, once a reminder of my pain, was now a testament to my strength, a symbol of hope for those walking the path I had once trod. As I locked the door and stepped out into the evening, the cool air brushing against my skin, I felt a profound sense of closure. The battle was over, and I had emerged victorious, not just over Ronan, but over the fear and doubt that had once held me captive. Walking away from the boutique, I looked up at the stars. their light a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The future was mine to shape, a blank canvas awaiting the touch of my hand. And as I took those first steps into the unknown, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same courage and determination that had led me to this moment of rebirth. The end of my marriage to Ronan was not just an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. My hands trembled as I held the envelope, my name scrawled across it in jagged handwriting. I didn't recognize the writing, but the words inside cut deep. Your husband is not who you think he is. Ask him about Elise. Elise. My mind raced, my heart pounding. Derek wouldn't, he couldn't. I grabbed my phone, fingers fumbling. Jenna, it's me. We need to talk now. I paced the living room, bile rising in my throat as I waited for her to arrive. This had to be a sick prank, a cruel joke. Derek and I had our troubles, but he'd never betray me like this. Would he? Jenna burst through the front door, face etched with concern. What's going on? What's happened? Wordlessly, I handed her the note. She scanned it quickly, eyes widening. Who sent this? I don't know. It just arrived today. Jenna guided me to the couch. Breathe, hon. We'll figure this out. Anger flared suddenly. Figure what out? That my husband's screwing around behind my back with someone named Elise? Jenna squeezed my hand. You don't know anything yet. This could just be a fake letter trying to cause trouble. I sighed, my rage dissolving. You're right. I can't believe he'd do this to me. Not after everything. Not after the infidelity years ago. The counseling, his remorse, the promise we'd never go through that again. Jenna pursed her lips. I'll ask Alex to look into it, discreetly. If anything turns up, I swallowed hard. Did I even want to know? The next few weeks crawled by in agonizing slow motion. I scrutinized Derek's every move, looking for cracks in his routine. He seemed the same as always, if a bit distracted. More anonymous letters arrived, hinting at secrets. Elise's name echoed in my mind. Alex uncovered the first clues. Records of lavish gifts, a paper trail linking Derek and someone named E. Montgomery, but no concrete evidence of an affair. Until the phone records. Late-night calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Thousands of them over the past 6 months. No way it was for business. Rage simmered in my veins. How could he do this to us? After everything we'd survived? I confronted Derek one night after work, casting aside pretense. Who is she, Derek? He froze. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Who's Elise? Are you sleeping with her? Panic flitted across his face. No, of course not. There's no one else, I swear. I slammed the phone records down. Then explain this. Explain the gifts you sent her, the trips you took together. Explain the constant calls and texts behind my back. Derek paled. Marlene, please. My hands clenched. How long, Derek? How long have you been lying to me, betraying our vows, making a fool of me? Tears filled his eyes. I never meant. I love you, Marlene. Please let me fix this. I turned away, disgusted. Save it. I'm done with your lies. I had my proof now. My husband's betrayal laid bare. This was only the beginning. I would make him pay for every sleepless night, every moment he made me doubt myself, for breaking vows and my heart all over again. Derek would regret the day he ever heard the name Elise. How could he do this to me again? I fumed, pacing Jenna's living room. Jenna perched on the couch, lips pressed in a thin line. Derek's always been selfish. I warned you when you took him back the first time. I whirled to face her. I thought he'd changed. I thought our marriage meant something to him. Clearly it didn't. Alex's voice was grim. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Jenna shot him a look before turning back to me. What matters now is how you want to handle this. Derek betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. If you want to walk away... Oh, I'm not walking away, I cut in. I'm going to make him pay. Alex raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? I took a deep breath. I want to hit him where it hurts. I know things about Derek, secrets he's tried very hard to hide. Like the debt he'd racked up trying to climb the corporate ladder. All those business trips that were just excuses to gamble. I think it's time his pretty little mistress learned the truth about the man she's been spin-screwing. My voice dripped contempt. Once I expose who Derek really is, his affair with Elise will implode. Then I'll take him for everything he's worth. Jenna nodded slowly. All right, if you're sure this is what you want." I've never been more sure of anything. We ironed out a plan over the next few weeks, gathered every shred of evidence about the affair and Derek's lies. Elise thought she was sleeping with an ambitious executive. I couldn't wait to shatter that illusion. I bided my time, pretending I knew nothing, acted the dutiful wife while Derek carried on behind my back. Finally, the perfect opportunity arose, a family dinner at Derek's parents' country club. His parents had always thought I was beneath their precious son. Time to show them how wrong they were. I wore Derek's favorite black dress, wanting to look every inch the calm, confident wife. His parents greeted me with thin smiles and tight hugs. We sat down to dinner, the air simmering with tension. I made idle small talk, waiting for the right moment. Finally, when a lull hit midway through the main course, I struck. "Derek, don't you have some news for your parents?" I kept my tone light and sweet. Derek's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "What are you talking about?" I tilted my head. "Oh, I just thought you might want to tell them about the new baby on the way. They're going to be grandparents after all." His mother gasped. "A baby? But why wouldn't you tell us?" I turned to her with mocking sympathy. I'm sure Derek was just waiting for the right time, though it is a bit tricky since the mother is his mistress, Elise. Chaos erupted. Derek sputtered denials while his parents shouted recriminations. I sat back and watched it unfold with grim satisfaction. Finally, I slammed my hands on the table, silencing the room. I nudged Derek with contempt. "Go on, then. Tell them. Tell them what a lying, cheating failure you are." Derek shrank under my glare. When he stayed silent, I continued, relishing every word. "You want to know who your son really is? A liar, a fraud, up to his eyeballs in gambling debt. He used company money to finance trysts with his little whore." I slapped the proof down in front of his ashen parents. "So much for your perfect son, but I'm done covering for him. We're over, Derek. I quit." Let his house of cards collapse. I would be there to watch it crumble with a smile on my face. The fallout from the family dinner was swift and severe. Derek bombarded my phone with texts and voicemails, begging for another chance. His parents cut off contact completely, no doubt mortified by their son's disgrace. I ignored it all, refusing to let them guilt me into silence. They made their choices. Now they would face the consequences. The anonymous letters kept coming, hinting at secrets only Derek's mistress could know. I added them to the mounting pile of evidence. Soon, I would have enough to bury them both. I dove back into work, determined not to let Derek's betrayal affect my performance. The office rumor mill churned with speculation about my failing marriage and Derek's tawdry affair. I held my head high through it all. Let them talk. I had nothing to hide. Weeks later, Jenna called with an urgent discovery. "That mistress of Derek's? Her name's not Elise, it's Lisa. Lisa Montgomery." My breath caught. Montgomery? As in Silas Montgomery? Silas headed Montgomery Holdings, one of our biggest rivals. If Derek was sleeping with his daughter? "This goes deeper than we thought," Jenna said grimly. "Derek wasn't just cheating on you. He was using your marriage to get close to Montgomery Holdings through Lisa." Red-hot rage flooded me. My hands curled into fists. Bad enough Derek betrayed our vows again. He'd also jeopardized my career and reputation for his own gain. "That bastard," I seethed. "He doesn't just want to destroy our marriage, he wants to destroy me." "We're not going to let that happen." Jenna's voice hardened. "I've been digging into Montgomery Holdings. They're not as clean as they pretend to be." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "Let's just say they have their fair share of skeletons. If this affair goes public, it could take down both Derek and Montgomery." I remembered Silas Montgomery's smug smile at the last trade conference, so assured of his dominance over my family's company. The thought of watching his empire crumble along with Derek's made my blood sing. "Do it," I told Jenna. "Full nuclear exposure. I want everyone to see their lies." I felt a perverse thrill making the plans, like pieces slotting into place. All those years bowing and scraping to get ahead, and for what? Men like Derek and Silas who used and abused anyone foolish enough to trust them. No more. I was done playing nice. The anonymous notes kept arriving, each more ominous than the last. Threats about what would happen if I didn't back down. Lisa clearly realized I wasn't going away quietly. I added the letters to the stack of evidence. Let Derek and his mistress threaten all they wanted. They couldn't intimidate me into silence. Not anymore. For the first time in years, I felt fully empowered. I walked taller, spoke up louder. Derek's betrayal had lit a fire in me, forged me into someone new, someone who wouldn't be pushed around or dismissed. Let them keep underestimating me. They had no idea what was coming. The day of reckoning had arrived. I woke up energized, ready to finally confront Derek and expose his lies. I dressed for battle, in a sharp black pantsuit and heels, slicked on bold red lipstick, armor against whatever vitriol Derek threw at me. I felt strong, unbreakable. At the office, I breezed through my morning meetings, anticipation thrumming under my cool exterior. I messaged Jenna and Alex. It's time. During lunch, I asked Derek to meet me in a private conference room. He arrived looking guarded, clearly expecting me to grovel. Not this time. I slid a file folder across the table. Do you know what this is? Derek eyed me warily as he opened it, then paled. Where did you get these? I smiled coldly. Records of all your little trips to the casino, the ones you claimed were for business, gambling away company money to fund your habit. I slapped down another folder. And let's not forget the mountain of debt you've accumulated. Tell me, does your mistress Lisa know about your financial issues? Or did you lie to her like you lied to me? Derek shoved back his chair. Enough. I won't sit here and listen to these outrageous accusations. My hand shot out, clutching his wrist. Oh no, you're going to sit here and listen to every word, unless you want these files leaked to the board. I held his gaze. Well? Sweat beaded his forehead. Slowly, he sat back down. I smiled, all ice. That's what I thought. I slid the divorce papers across the table. Derek stared at them, dumbstruck. Sign them. This marriage is over and you know it. When he still hesitated, I pressed harder. Come on, Derek. Sign the papers so you can run to Lisa with a clear conscience. She is pregnant, isn't she? His head jerked up, eyes wide with shock. I waved a hand. Oh, please. You didn't actually think I was ignorant about your affair this whole time, did you? I leaned forward. Now sign, or everyone we know will find out exactly what kind of man they married. Your choice. With shaking hands, Derek scrawled his signature on the paperwork. I gathered the file folders and stood abruptly. Our lawyers will be in touch about the divorce settlement. Don't even think of trying to screw me over, Derek. You know I can and will destroy you if you do. I walked steadily from the room, head high. The confrontation had gone even better than I planned. Now for the final blow. At dinner that evening, I sat waiting with Jenna and Alex. Derek's parents arrived first, both tense. When Derek joined us, I shared a knowing look with Jenna. Time to light the final fire. We made it through the salad course before I broke the silence. Well, Derek, don't you have an announcement for your parents? Derek paled. Before he could respond, I continued cheerfully. Derek's going to be a father. Isn't that lovely news? A hush fell over the table. Then came the explosion. Derek's parents shouted and raged as Derek sat, condemned. I watched it all with grim satisfaction, the inferno I'd stoked consuming them completely. Finally I stood, silencing the room. I faced my in-laws, triumph surging through me. You're welcome to the cheating mess of a son you raised. Consider this my official resignation from this family. I'm done covering for him. I strode out without looking back, Derek's shouts echoing behind me. I'd laid waste to everything he valued. Now to focus on building myself back up from the ashes. The fallout from my confrontation with Derek was immediate. He blew up my phone, leaving pleading voicemails and apologetic texts. His parents called too, demanding I reconsider. I ignored them all. The time for mercy was over. Jenna came over to debrief. That was an epic takedown. How are you holding up? I sighed. Relieved it's finally out in the open, but I want to make sure he doesn't get away with this. She nodded. What do you need from me? I want to go after Derek financially in the divorce, bleed him dry, and I want to destroy his reputation. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Playing hardball, I like it. I can start drafting aggressive terms for the settlement. Good, he doesn't get to walk away from this unscathed. My phone buzzed with yet another pleading message from Derek. Delete. What about his mistress Lisa? Jenna asked. Any plans there? I smiled slowly. Oh yes. She wanted Derek so badly, she can have what's left of him. I'd spent years buried under Derek's lies. Never again. From now on, people would know exactly who they were dealing with. While Jenna handled the legal side, Alex and I planned Derek's social downfall. A few anonymous tips later, and the story of his tawdry affair and excessive gambling spread like wildfire through the office gossip channels. Derek was promptly placed on leave, pending an ethics investigation. I saved the damning evidence to leak publicly, if needed. With Derek's reputation in tatters, I asked Alex to dig deeper on Lisa. There had to be more ammunition we could use against her. Sure enough, he uncovered her damaging history as a homewrecker. Other affairs, broken engagements, manipulated men. She was a predator, and Derek her latest prey. Armed with the information, I reached out to her directly for the first time. "Lisa, we need to talk, woman to woman." She agreed to meet for coffee. As we sat staring at each other over lattes, I felt only cold contempt for the woman sitting across from me. Calculating, manipulative, cruel. She and Derek deserved each other. I slid a file over to her. "I assume you know who I am." Lisa glanced through the photos and records inside, then paled. "Where did you get these?" "That's not important. What is important is that you stay away from my husband." She stiffened. "Ex-husband. And I'll do as I please." I leaned forward. "I know women like you, Lisa. You target married men to satisfy some twisted need for power. I'm sure Derek spun quite the tale to get in your bed." I tapped the file. "But lies don't hold up forever. The truth has a way of coming out." I held her gaze. "Leave Derek. Focus on that baby, if it's even his, because if you don't, everyone you've ever crossed paths with will learn exactly what kind of person you are. I guarantee it." I left a shaken Lisa behind. Let her worry, Derek would learn the truth too. I wanted her constantly looking over her shoulder, like I'd had to do. Jenna was right. Playing hardball felt good. Taking back my power, exposing the ugliness Derek tried to hide, felt damn near euphoric. No more being the dutiful, forgiving wife. That woman died the day I learned Derek betrayed me again. Now someone new had risen from her ashes, someone who would never be used or dismissed again. I had been reborn, and it was time for my new life to begin. After exposing Derek's lies, I finally felt free. No more constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next betrayal would come. It was liberating. The divorce proceedings advanced swiftly with the mountain of evidence against Derek. My lawyer assured me I'd get everything I asked for in the settlement. Derek didn't stand a chance. His mom still called frequently, pleading with me to give her son another chance. I blocked her number. They'd all shown their true colors. Now, they could live with the consequences. A few weeks later, Jenna called me grimly. "We have a problem. Lisa's still in the picture. Derek convinced her the baby is his." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course he did. Derek could charm his way out of anything when backed into a corner. "She's pressuring him to get shared custody in the divorce," Jenna continued. "Playing happy new family." An icy rage filled me. "So they thought they could try and play me, even now?" "Like hell. Set up a family dinner. Here, I want them all under one roof." Time for the final reckoning with Derek, Lisa, and his toxic parents. No more manipulating shadows, everything out in the open. On the night, I dressed in black armor again, bold red lipstick my war paint. Jenna and Alex arrived first, grimly determined. Right on time, Derek walked in with his parents flanking him on either side. Lisa trailed behind, wearing a dress stretched tight over her swollen belly. I greeted them with a shark-like smile. So nice to have the whole family together again. We sat, tension simmering. I kept the conversation light, biding my time, waiting until the main course was served before dropping my first verbal bomb. "Lisa, you're positively glowing. When are you due?" She blinked, hand going instinctively to her belly. Early next month." "How exciting. Derek must be thrilled to welcome his first child." Across the table, Derek paled. Lisa shifted in her seat. "Yes, well, we're both very happy." "I'm sure," I smiled pleasantly. "Though didn't you tell me you two only started seeing each other last fall? What an accelerated timeline." The table went silent. Lisa's eyes widened fractionally. "Gotcha. Derek's mom recovered first." "That's enough now, Marlene. Stop these ugly accusations." I ignored her, focusing on Lisa. "Sweetie, surely you're aware Derek was still very much with me when you supposedly got pregnant? I hope he at least told you the truth about our relationship timeline." "You lying bitch," Derek spat. "Don't pretend our marriage was some happy fantasy. You checked out years ago." I shook my head. "And whose fault was that, Derek? Or have you forgotten your chronic habit of screwing anything that walks?" Chaos erupted. Lisa accused Derek of deceit. He shouted desperately, appealing to his parents for backup. They in turn screamed at me for causing a scene. Finally, I slammed my hand down, fed up. Enough, I'm done with the lies. I locked eyes with Lisa. That baby is not his. Stunned silence. Lisa's hand clutched her belly. How dare you? I tossed the paternity test results down with a thwop, watching the color drain from Derek's face. No more hiding. Lisa dissolved into tears. Derek vehemently denied it, but I could see the truth dawning in his eyes. They'd tried to play me and lost. Badly. Checkmate. I stood up calmly and addressed Lisa. You want Derek? You can keep him, but this ends tonight. We're done. I turned and strode away, finally free. Let Derek and Lisa turn on each other. My hands were clean. The family dinner felt like a tipping point. After exposing Lisa's lies, it was all finally crumbling for her and Derek. Lisa disappeared from the social scene, no doubt embarrassed by the entire affair. Derek bombarded me with angry texts, but I stood firm. We were over. Professionally, things shifted in my favor too. With Derek disgraced, upper management started relying on me more. I stepped up, determined to prove myself. A few weeks later, Jenna called me excitedly. You're never going to believe who just reached out to me. Who? Liam Montgomery, Lisa's ex-husband. I sat up straighter. This was an interesting development. What did he want? To talk to you. Apparently you two have a common enemy. I considered this. Liam had divorced Lisa years earlier under mysterious circumstances. If anyone knew secrets I could use against her, it was him. Set up a meeting, but discreetly. If word got back to Derek or Lisa... Jenna agreed. I'll handle it. This could be the ammunition we need to finally shut them down for good. We met Liam at a small cafe downtown. I studied the handsome, well-dressed man as he approached. He had a wounded air about him, despite the tailored suit and easy smile. Marlene, thank you for meeting me. We exchanged pleasantries before I cut to the chase. What do you want with me, Liam? His face darkened. Straight to business, I appreciate that. We have a common enemy in your husband and my ex-wife. I raised an eyebrow. Go on. I have information that could ruin them both socially and professionally, but I'll only share if we work together. I considered his offer. Liam had resources and insider access at his family's company. Combined with my evidence against Derek, we could inflict real damage. I extended my hand. You have a deal. Liam broke into a sharp grin. Excellent. We hashed out a plan to strategically leak information about Derek's unethical behavior and Lisa's sordid history. A coordinated takedown. Within days, the gossip rags were buzzing with sordid rumors about Derek's gambling and Lisa's affairs. The business journals questioned shady dealings at Montgomery Holdings. Their reputations were being shredded. But I wasn't done yet. Liam came through with one final bombshell. Evidence linking Lisa and Derek to corporate espionage against my family's company. Enough proof for authorities to get involved. I called an emergency meeting with the executives and board members, Liam by my side. As we presented the damaging documents, outrage erupted around the room. Derek's treachery went deeper than any of us realized. He'd abused his position to undercut the very company that had given him a career. The board immediately voted to fire Derek and pursue criminal charges. Justice was finally being served. As we left the meeting, Liam turned to me. I know this was about revenge for you, but I wanted to say thank you. Exposing Lisa and Derek, it brought me closure too. I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Liam hadn't just been motivated by payback. He needed to regain control after Lisa destroyed his life too. I understood completely. Of course. And thank you for having the courage to come forward. I'm just sorry you got caught in Lisa's web too. Liam nodded, looking thoughtful. You know, now that it's all over, maybe we could get dinner sometime? I considered him handsome, successful, principled. A man I knew I could trust. I'd like that, I replied, and I meant it. With Derek ruined professionally and Lisa in hiding, I decided to make my final move, seizing control of the company from Derek's family. As acting head of the business, I reviewed operations with a critical eye, building an airtight case for mismanagement under my father-in-law's leadership. With Liam's help, I also uncovered financial irregularities suggesting embezzlement. The old guard had been bleeding the company dry for years. No more. I called an emergency shareholders meeting and presented the damning evidence. When I proposed a vote of no confidence in the current leadership, the motion passed swiftly. The board named me as interim CEO. After the meeting, I stopped by my father-in-law's office. He sat grimly packing his possessions into a box. "I hope you're satisfied, taking everything from our family." His voice shook with bitterness. I tilted my head. "Satisfied? No, I won't be satisfied until your toxic son is permanently out of my life." My father-in-law slammed his fists on the desk. "Damn you, Marlene. Derek loved you." I laughed coldly. "Loved me? Is that what you call his chronic affairs and betrayals?" I leaned in close, punctuating each word. "He never loved me." With that, I walked out, leaving the old man fuming impotently. One chapter closed. With the company secure, I turned my attention to finalizing the divorce. My lawyer was ruthlessly efficient, securing me the house, investments, and a generous settlement in return for keeping Derek's misdeeds quiet. The day the papers were signed, I invited Jenna over to celebrate. I raised a glass. "Here's to new beginnings." She clinked her glass against mine. "To new beginnings, and Marlene 2.0, who takes no shot from anyone." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Derek was finally out of my life for good. Marlene 2.0, I liked the sound of that. A few weeks later, Liam took me out to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Over wine and candlelight, our talk turned serious. "I have to confess, I had an ulterior motive asking you here tonight," Liam said. "I want to make this, us, official." He took my hands in his. "You are an extraordinary woman, Marlene. I know we started off with revenge in common, but what I feel goes so much deeper now." I looked into his earnest eyes and saw genuine emotion there, a real second chance. "I feel the same way," I confessed. "I tried to deny it at first, but you've shown me I can love and trust again. I want that future with you." Liam broke into a smile. "Then let's build it together." The next day, he accompanied me to Derek's mother's palatial estate. I handed her a copy of the divorce decree. "It's done. Your son is dead to me now in every way. I trust there will be no further contact from any of you." My former mother-in-law glared. "You'll regret this, Marlene." I glanced at Liam and squeezed his hand. "No, I don't think I will, but Derek will, for the rest of his life." We walked out together into the sunshine, leaving the toxic past behind. I had everything I needed right beside me. The story of my marriage's ugly implosion made headlines for a while, but I held my head high through the gossip and whispers. I had nothing to hide anymore. In time, new scandals seized the public's attention. My reputation recovered, stronger than ever. With Liam as my partner, I transformed the company into a thriving modern business, and I took my rightful place as CEO on my own terms. My past self was gone, a distant memory. Now a powerful, unstoppable woman had risen in her place. Unbreakable, unstoppable, unleashed at last. This was my time now.